All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Landy Lodge. We've got another great episode for you today where Kingdom Hearts is on the menu. And not only that, we will be joined by the great and the powerful Prodigy, who will be joining us in just a moment. But before we get to that, little shout out to the early birds. I see we got Treehouse in here. We've got Jaw of 20s. We've got Usagioni, Beef and Butter, Will's Wild Word, The Nobody, Jeffrey the Lion, Phoenix Splash, and Dark Dragon. Oh, and Hassan's made it as well. Always love the early birds. Really appreciate you guys all being in here. But now, without further ado, allow me to introduce today's guest, none other than Prodigy. Prodigy, you with us, my man?
Yes, I am. What's up,
There we,
everybody?
there we go. How's everything going, man? How are you holding up in the great Kingdom Hearts drought of 2026?
Uh, it's been waves, to be honest. I mean, the real answer is I've been fine, but the prodigy has been suffering. I'll say that. John's fine, but Prodigy's suffering.
I do feel like, because that's the thing. Look, man, you are one of the most diehard Kingdom Hearts fans I know. I struggle to think of anybody who must be itching for this game more than, people like yourself and people in your community. But hopefully what I'm hoping that we could do here today is, have an honest discussion about the future of Kingdom Hearts, maybe discuss why this game is taking so long, and then also kind of let ourselves get excited about the future. Because even with this long wait, when I allow myself to put that aside and I think about the actual prospects of the future of Kingdom Hearts from a narrative and gameplay perspective, there is so much to be excited about. There is so much that we've been left on a cliffhanger for, that we're waiting to get to the conclusion of. So I, along with many others, feel this collective community pain, that it's not that it's just a long wait. It's that a lot of promises were made that have yet to be fulfilled. Are you sort of feeling that same sort of notion?
Yeah, I'd say so, and I feel like a big reason the drought has been a little rough for a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans is because I made a point earlier. Today is the anniversary for Kingdom Hearts 3 in Japan, but a lot of people after Kingdom Hearts 3 were kind of thinking to themselves, maybe we'll get Kingdom Hearts games a lot faster now because some people were okay with the long wait for KH3 because they were basically rebuilding Kingdom Hearts like from like making a new foundation for the series to grow off of. And as we progress further after Kingdom Hearts 3, we kind of start to realize like, okay, this foundation that they laid out for the series, we thought that originally would give us more games because they'd be able to reuse assets, they'd be able to like basically build more games off of KH3. And while KH4 is definitely doing that, I'm sure because of the switch down the road in 5 and probably just many other factors, a lot of new worlds, they are trying to get worlds like Star Wars, Marvel, etc. There's probably a lot going on behind the scenes for that. It just kind of seems like a compounding effect of gaming culture just affecting KH4's release, I guess. It's just a lot. There's a lot going on. And it does suck that we've been waiting this long for 4, because I think a lot of people, we thought by the time we reached 2026, we'd be talking about a release window, a release date for KH4, but instead, we're still waiting for a second trailer, man.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of envy from the FF7 development cycle from Kingdom Hearts fans, and I definitely understand why. Because I think the sort of development cycles we saw post FF7 remake was sort of what everybody was expecting for Kingdom Hearts 3. But you were kind of alluding to why they haven't been the same in the sense that the FF7 trilogy is reusing the assets in Unreal Engine 4 throughout the whole trilogy, whereas Kingdom Hearts has transitioned fully into Unreal Engine 5. However, we discussed on the last episode a couple weeks ago that you know, do you think Square is sleeping on the fact that Kingdom Hearts fans would be happy with PS2 assets if you made a subtitle game with PS2 assets, or even if you reuse the Kingdom Hearts 3 assets? I almost feel like they're caught up in that they feel the need that the new game has to be with the new engine and the new graphics, and I definitely understand wanting to let Kingdom Hearts 4 debut that, but do you think that they're sort of sleeping on the fact that they have a fan base that loved the old Kingdom shader, loved the old art style? Even, I've seen the KH3 art style get some criticisms, but I think people, like you were saying, were sort of expecting to see those assets be reused, and that would be the look of the Kingdom Hearts series for quite a while.
Yeah, and I think Unreal Engine 5, it is very similar to 4, so it's not like it's not like the game is definitely gonna look a lot different, or rather, the art style might shift and change, like, through the world similar to how KH3 did, but I feel like when it comes to the art style of Kingdom Hearts, I agree that a lot of people would be fine with the PS2 art style today, but if I'm being honest, I think there's a little nostalgia like add to that because let's look at let's look at Disney even like very involved in Kingdom Hearts, right? Like Disney moved a lot of their movies to being 3D animations compared to 2D. One of our last 2D like Disney movies was Princess and the Frog, and around that same time is kind of when you'd see this shift in Kingdom Hearts. KH3 would start development not too long after that. I'd say a couple years after that movie. And KH3 uses a lot of movies, Pixar films, Disney films that
That's such a
are
good point.
3D. I think that a lot of people they say that, but admittedly, I think a lot of those movies would look really rough in that art style.
You know,
But
I've never thought of it like that, but that's so true that if we went through the Kingdom of Corona and it looked like Agrabah with the flat textures and everything, I actually think people wouldn't be so satisfied. That's a
yeah,
really good point. I've never thought of it like that. That's why you're here,
and
Prodigy, by the way.
thank you. And nowadays, we don't you will not hear much criticism from KH2 unless it's someone defending like KH3 or defending another game. I want to make it clear. I'm a 3 glazer, but I do not trash on KH2. We love KH2 in this house. But I want to say back in the day, Kingdom Hearts wasn't necessarily praised or anything for its art style. It wasn't criticized for it necessarily either, aside from a couple of things. I remember vividly during the KH2 era, worlds like Pirates were extremely jarring for a lot
Mhm.
of the casual audience. Like, they're like, this looks weird because it was a mix of it's so cool that Sora is in a world like Pirates, but also why does Pirates look like this? Because we can admit in KH2, Jack Sparrow looks very, very different compared to like Donald and Goofy and Sora next to him. But that's also the charm of Kingdom Hearts. So it's like a thing where if you're super obsessed with Kingdom Hearts, you absolutely love it. But if you're even slightly not as obsessed, you're probably like, oh, this looks weird.
Right.
I think they want to kind of blend that nowadays. Like you go from Pirates in KH2 to Pirates in KH3, where it's probably undisputably like the most beautiful world the series has ever done. Like those CGI cutscenes, pre-render cutscenes, absolutely insane. Even today, I think for KH4, if they're going that route and they're using pirates words like San Fran as kind of like a base, then I can understand why 4 might be taking so long, but I just wish we got a little more communication along the way. I'm not sitting here saying I do wish the game was out right now. I do wish the game we had an idea of where the game was going. Yeah, the developers don't have to give us any information, but it sucks because it feels like a lot of other developers nowadays. Like you look at Capcom, you look at like some of these other Japanese companies, and they've been communicating, man. Even for other Square Enix franchises,
Mhm.
they've been communicating pretty well. Especially with Final Fantasy VII. Well, I'd say mostly Final Fantasy to be honest. Near Dragon Quest 12 are kind of iffy, but
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of other franchises have been communicating because I've seen a lot of people saying how we're in this day and age where games they don't want to show anything for games until they're close to releasing, and most companies have kind of been doing that even in the 2010s. You have like your Metroid Primes, you have your Bayonettas here and there, you have your Kingdom Heartses here and there, but a lot of companies have been doing that for a while. But one thing that Square does a lot is they just announce their stuff way
Yep.
too early,
Yep.
and it can't I think it's a tricky thing to talk about with the hype cycle for 4 because I think all perspectives are like somewhat valid. It's just this series has went from a series that was basically giving us games yearly, bi-yearly, to now it feels like we're lucky if we even get an interview.
Yeah. It's
You're
you know
spoiled.
And, going off kind of what you were saying too, is that, at the end of the day, it doesn't need to be the next big trailer. So, like, one company I'd like to point towards that I think is doing a good job at keeping people interested in their franchise and in the coming sequel is Shift Up with Stellar Blade. We know next to nothing about Stellar Blade 2, but every few weeks they're dropping a new key art. They're dropping a new sort of concept art. They're dropping a new, like saying Stellar Blade 2 is coming, it's in development. Just very little things that are letting people know we're working along the way. Hey, look at this key art of a new location. What does it remind you of? I think there's ways that you can, like you're kind of getting towards, is let your audience know things are going well, things are moving along, and it doesn't have to be some big cinematic trailer. It doesn't have to be some huge reveal. Even, look, those screenshots we got earlier last year, if it wasn't littered with damage control, I think that's all fans really need. Just every few months, just show us like one screenshot, show us a little something to let us know that things are moving. Because I will agree, I'll get hard on people for wanting too much communication, but I will say the way the FF7 team is communicating with their fans is, I understand why people might be frustrated as to how come the FF7 trilogy is getting this constant communication, constant interviews with Hamaguchi and Nomura and the like, novels, constant letting people know things are moving along. Do you think this is a Square Enix thing, or do you think that maybe before Square can say or show anything, they have to go through Disney, and then there's such a long feedback loop because Disney's such a massive corporation that the idea that they can do that is a little bit more difficult? What do you think? And again, this is just speculation on both my part and your part. It's not fact. But what do you think is the reason why we haven't gotten as much communication as some smaller companies can afford to do, or as you were saying, some other Square franchises can afford to do?
I think I think there's not one big reason, unfortunately. That's easier to put in like a headline or a
Mm-hmm.
title, but um realistically is not one reason. It's definitely multiple. I think two things. To answer your question, for starters, I do think there is a long feedback loop when it comes to Kingdom Hearts, and I think that feedback loop has probably gotten longer as more games have happen. I think the feedback loop was probably at its longest, if I had to guess, with KH3, and it's probably even worse with KH4. Now, I don't. This isn't like some bad thing to take away and be like, "Oh, Disney's the villains; they're stopping us from getting Kingdom Hearts." I think it's just a natural, like any. This would happen with any company, like if there was multiple people involved, because
And it's
Disney has
international
characters.
communication, right? It's not two
Yeah,
Japanese companies talking to each other. It's literally two different continents, two different sides of the planet communicating with each other,
yeah,
which I'm sure
especially with
adds to that.
especially with Disney Interactive for the most part not being like the same as it once was.
Mhm.
So that department has like shifted since Cage, uh, since Kingdom Hearts 3 like started going underway. But I think the feedback loop has probably gone longer, and the reason I think it's gone longer because a lot of us are running under the assumption that Star Wars is confirmed for KH4, which I fully believe it, right? I believe it, right? But
Why do you believe it?
Square
Because
Square Enix,
dude, I'd lose my mind. You always talk about this Darth Vader boss fight, and I would
yes,
lose it. Keyblade lightsaber. Go on, give me the hope, give me the cope, give me it all. I'm ready for it.
people don't understand is how big of a deal that would be, like, for media, period. Like that would just be a huge deal. Because not only, because I'm a big Star Wars fan, not only would a Darth Vader boss fight just go crazy. Like those Frozen and Pride Land videos on YouTube, where it's just like the biggest Kingdom Hearts videos on the platform are not from a Kingdom Hearts YouTuber. It's not some random video essay. It's all Frozen and Pride Land cutscenes,
Yeah.
like being played for kids and stuff. I think the Star Wars world, a Darth Vader boss would kind of get that type of traction, as in like that casual like attraction. People just scrolling through YouTube, scrolling through the internet, and they see this really high fidelity, crazy looking Darth Vader boss and just this
Hmm.
anime character fighting him. I think that would be nuts. On top of that, as a Star Wars fan, um, if we are getting Return of the Jedi, a lot of people who aren't locked into Star Wars like that, which is most Kingdom Hearts fans, Luke Skywalker is very rare in Star Wars media. Like people
Yeah.
probably think outside looking in that Luke Skywalker is in everything. Luke Skywalker is in everything Star Wars related. No, Luke Skywalker is rare, bro. He is
Mm-hmm.
like such
Mm-hmm.
a rare character to appear in any Star Wars media. Like the prequels have significantly more content than the OG trilogy does. So just Sora being potential party members with the Luke Skywalker in like
Good point.
I guess a modern day graphics and game would look crazy. It would look absolutely crazy. The Star Wars family would go just nuts for that. I could talk about Star Wars all day long. But
As as could I. So maybe we'll do a Star Wars cast someday, a little Star Wars episode. If we do get the Star Wars world, perhaps
I'd love to.
yeah, perhaps you and I can nerd out a lot about that. Here's my cope for Star Wars is coming to Kingdom Hearts is that the nature and I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing, but the truth is the nature of business in the video game industry is if you don't outsell your previous title, all the investors pull out. And I think the big difficulty that
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts has is that Kingdom Hearts 3, by far and away, mind you, was the best selling Kingdom Hearts game of all time. So now everyone is looking at Kingdom Hearts 4 as this has to outsell 3. Now, Kingdom Hearts 3, as I like to say, I like you. I love Kingdom Hearts 3. I get accused of glazing it. Doesn't mean I don't love Kingdom Hearts 2. I absolutely do. Doesn't mean I don't love Kingdom Hearts 1. I absolutely do. But when I think about why Kingdom Hearts 3 sold that much, it's because it became a meme. If we're being honest, it became a meme. Where's Kingdom Hearts 3? It's never coming out. Where is it? So then when
Oh,
it
you
didn't
had to
show
play
up,
it.
yeah, like everyone wanted to be on board. So I don't think they're going to capture that again. I just don't. But what could capture general audiences to that degree would be an IP like Star Wars. And again, not trying to comment on the state of modern Star Wars, but I kind of am aching to see Luke Skywalker in his element again. I kind of am aching to do battle with Darth Vader again. And just to give an idea of how something like that can move the needle, like I'm a big Soul Calibur fan. The Soul Calibur game, Soul Calibur 4, in my opinion, was nothing really that impressive compared to previous titles. But simply because Darth Vader and Yoda were in it, I believe it's the
Yep.
second best selling title in the whole series' history. Like, that's the kind of power an IP like that has. And that's the kind of power that Kingdom Hearts uniquely has to link itself up with all these IPs to pull in new audience members. So, you brought up Star Wars before, and honestly, I think that's a layup, especially when you consider Nomura is a huge Star Wars fan. But you also brought up Marvel. What are the chances you think Marvel gets into the future of Kingdom Hearts?
I really don't know. I think Marvel is a little less likely than Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but to tackle on your point from earlier, before I round back to that, uh, to add to that, Star Wars and Marvel were basically like the most consistent. Nomura was asked after KH3 and like every interview after KH3 from like public journalists, Nomura was constantly just asked, "Yo, can we see a Star Wars and Marvel world? Do you think Star Wars and Marvel has a chance of being in Kingdom Hearts in the future?" That was like interviewers' like go-to question when KH3 came out. Admittedly, this was after like Endgame and stuff, and or this was like during Infinity War and Endgame. So Kingdom Hearts like 3 released during like Marvel's peak. Um Star Wars, even though Star Wars has gotten a lot of bad like publicity as of late, or just honestly over the past couple of years, I think Kingdom Hearts has a chance of bringing classic Star Wars back, which would be really cool. And I think a lot of OG Star Wars fans will like that. But for Marvel, I think, hmm, I don't know how likely it actually is, but I would be surprised if they don't at least consider it. I think the hardest part of including a Marvel world is figuring out who do they want to like lead that, right? I could easily see Sony, probably like I could easily see Spider-Man in the Kingdom Hearts universe. I think Spider-Man would be like the best character to put there
Spider-Man would
because it's
total
Spider-Man.
Peter Parker and Sora are a match made in heaven. I just don't think
Yes,
Sony's going to allow it because they're multi-platform
exactly.
now.
Exactly. I don't think Sony would allow it, and I think that would kind of suck for Kingdom Hearts. Because don't get me wrong, I'm cool with the exclusive Keyblade stuff, but if we ever got into a situation where we had exclusive worlds, that'd be kind of cringe. I don't know about that.
No,
I don't know if I'm down for that.
I'm
But who
with you
knows
there.
though? I mean, Sony releases games on PC now, so maybe they wouldn't care.
I mean, look for the price. Look, everyone has a price for the $1 million man. For the right price, I'm sure Sony could allow them to license Spider-Man to different platforms. I think with Marvel, you're more likely to get a summon. something like that. I think you're more likely to get a Hulk
Yeah.
summon or an Iron Man summon just to poke the bear a little bit and introduce it slowly. Because I think a lot of people when they think Kingdom Hearts, they're thinking classic Disney. And then when Kingdom Hearts 3 really like leaned into Pixar, and then if Kingdom Hearts 4 kind of leans into a bunch of live action, I almost wonder if they do too much of that, if that's going to feel a little disjointed. And if maybe it might be smart to just maybe do Star Wars first and then lightly introduce something like Marvel before letting it have its own fully fledged world. But at the same time, is
Yeah.
Unreality not a perfect platform for a cityscape with a superhero? Like it this is one other thing where I'm like, at the end of the day, it is a perfect match for what's going on.
A lot of people were talking about back in the day, even before KH3 came out, people were having discussions about Marvel replacing Winnie the Pooh essentially. And I
Hmm.
actually think the opportunity for that, I don't know if I want Winnie the Pooh to be replaced because it's a classic thing, but if there was a time to do so, it would be now since since the Dark Seeker saga is over. But in Quadratum, since they are kind of replicating a more, normal like IRL city, there's probably some comic book stores around, Sora might have a comic book. So like I think the story kind of writes itself there. You don't have to make a whole world or canonically put Marvel in the Kingdom Hearts universe, but you can make it like Sora can bring the pages to life or something with his keyblade in his room
Oh,
and have fun
dude.
fantasizing about that. Like they could the
Oh,
biggest concerns for Star Wars and Marvel for so many Kingdom Hearts fans is they're worried about the universes being too big and they won't like match with Kingdom Hearts. As if Kingdom Hearts doesn't already rewrite Disney stories or the world stories constantly so it fits its narrative. Like you know how big the Final Fantasy universe is, but the Final Fantasy characters in Kingdom Hearts are in Hollow Bastion. That's their home. That is meant to represent Midgar for the Final Fantasy characters. So like they can change stuff whenever they want to suit their needs.
yeah, like people also like kind of what you're getting at is when we see these crossovers happen in Kingdom Hearts, these crossovers are not canonical with the base material or the source material. Like the Cloud you're seeing in Kingdom Hearts is not the Cloud from FF7. He's from that world, so to speak, but it's not canonical with the series itself. So, like you're saying, they can make adjustments, they can, move things around so there isn't too much of that bloat, for lack of a better term. But I also can't get off this idea you just had where instead of the Winnie the Pooh book, you're going to get a comic book and you can hop from like panel to panel and maybe Sora has to, fix like again, like just like he does in the Disney worlds, he has to like fix the part of the story that's gone wrong or has gone awry. I think stuff like that. This is part of what makes the wait for Kingdom Hearts so so difficult for a lot of us is that we really don't know what they're going to do with all of this. We really don't know. Okay, we're going to Unreality, but they've also said that we're going to leave Unreality at some point. And does that mean that
Yeah.
and or maybe they meant Quadratum, so maybe we'll leave Quadratum at one point, maybe not necessarily Unreality. Obviously, that's alluding to Disney worlds that we're going to travel to. But another thing I've seen talked a lot about for Kingdom Hearts 4 is this idea of square worlds. Now, I for one think it might be more likely that square characters are just in Quadratum as opposed to square worlds. But where do you sort of lean on that? Do you see the Cloud Sephiroth trilogy coming back? And when I say trilogy, it's because they've had, there's been KH1, KH2, but they weren't in KH3. Do you see that making some kind of comeback? Do you see the World Ends With You characters making some kind of comeback? Do you think something like that is in the works with Quadratum, with the 104 building and the like?
I really hope so because a lot of people want that, and a lot of people are missing the square interaction in KH3. Me and you both are KH3 glazers, but I'll admit on my end that the one thing I was missing in KH3 when I played it initially is like I loved basically everything about the game first playthrough, but I did wish there was a Sephiroth fight because that was one of my
Yep.
favorite things in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. And this is coming from someone who did not grow up with Final Fantasy at all. I did not play Final Fantasy 7 for the first time until 2019
Oh
when
wow.
like a little bit after KH3. Yeah. I played Final Fantasy 7 and that's when I just got into the whole FF7 stuff before a remake would come out. But I wouldn't play it for that long. But as a kid, I was like in love with Sephiroth and Cloud, mostly because of the interactions you had with Cloud in Olympus Coliseum and that Sephiroth boss made quite the impression on me.
Mm.
So for me, I definitely want like Square Enix stuff to be back in KH4, like more Square Enix original material like Final Fantasy, Worlds with You, especially Worlds with You, because
Yeah.
Nomura kind of bounced around the topic in the Ultimania interviews. Nomura was asked about if the Worlds with You characters would be in this Shibuya, and Nomura kind of gave this answer of like, well, this isn't the same Shibuya that they're in, which is like what?
But
But
that
I'm
applies to like every IP that overlaps with Kingdom Hearts. Is it's not
yeah,
technically the same Arendelle. It's not technically the same toy box, for lack of a better term. You know, like
yeah.
it's almost like he said nothing when he said that. Honestly,
Basically, I feel like he just didn't want to set up expectations
yeah.
for that because he probably had a groundworks idea of what he wanted KH4 and like Verum Rex to probably be, but he probably didn't put it all together yet. So he probably didn't even think about like, okay, how do I include 2E characters or Final Fantasy characters in this? I feel like that stuff they add when they start working on the stories for the worlds, not like probably like midway through development. I want to say the thing I like the most about Square Enix involvement in Kingdom Hearts is bosses. I love
Hmm.
Sephiroth, but I think they should explore other boss fights from Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Nier, maybe. I don't know, just any franchise that they have, because I think that's a really good way to just have a really memorable impression with the character. It's cool to have like a couple seconds of a cameo here and there, and that does a lot for people, right? We used to say back in the day about how Final Fantasy characters they're just cameos, right? That used to be the defense, but over time, I kind of changed my mood on that because I don't know, like who am I to say
Who
like
who
that
taught Sora
20
what the
seconds
Keyblade was?
yeah, like Leon did. And it's like who am I to say this 30-second or minute long cutscene doesn't do a lot for you? Cuz like for me, I know bosses do a lot more for me than they do for a lot of other people, a lot of other cage fans. There's a lot of cage fans who are way more into the story, maybe way more into like the aesthetic or just general like dopamine that the combat offers and not really like the boss design. But for me, like bosses is one of the best ways to build an impression on me. Like Yozora, no one was really talking
Ooh.
about Yozora like that, even with them being in the secret ending to KH3. But when he became the secret
Excuse
boss
you,
in
sir.
Remind,
Me and all the rest of us that were left hanging on versus 13 were never going to shut up about it, boss fight or no. But I see your point, generally
I mean,
speaking.
yeah, but like I feel like the interest, like the to contextualize them more into Kingdom Hearts, I got more. I don't know if I'd say context is the right word, but more interest was definitely built. Because beforehand, it was like, okay, is this just a reference, or are they doing something with this? And it was kind of confusing. The secret ending was super vague, like most secret endings are. But then you get to Remind, you get to the secret episode, and it's like it's still vague, it's still mysterious. You still don't have any answers, but it's like okay, this character is going to be a big deal in the
Yeah.
future because we know how secret bosses are in Kingdom Hearts. It's like a declaration that this character is going to be massive in the story.
So speaking
So I
of
don't know,
which, I
things
do
change.
want to get into that. I want to talk about where the story is headed. You know, we did a good job talking about the development, talking about the Disney worlds that we expect to see, Super Bosses Square representation. But I definitely want to talk about some of the things that are exciting both you and I about the future of the literal narrative. But before we
Oh
get
yeah,
there, I want to do something very dangerous. I want to do something very dangerous. I want to ask a question to both
okay.
you and I that I have continued to get wrong for the better part of 5 years now, maybe four. So, what is your prediction for when we will get Kingdom Hearts 4? And again, these are predictions that will
Oh
likely
brother.
be wrong. At the risk of getting everyone's hopes up, we know nothing to make an accurate prediction. But I am curious what you think now that we are here at the peak of recorded human history 2026. When do you think we're going to get Kingdom Hearts 4, realistically speaking?
uh, Earliest late 2027, like super late 2027.
Holiday 27.
For
Interesting.
but first half of 2028. I think the range. I'm gonna give a range instead of a specific year.
Okay.
Late 2027 to early mid 2028 is my guess. And the reason I say that is because I've been I've been very optimistic for years about Kingdom Hearts 4 news. Every year, I've done the same video at the start of every year since this drought started. Will we see KH4 this year? What's going to happen? Kind of laying out my thoughts and what my predictions are. I've been optimistic year after year after year. This year, my optimism is definitely lower than it was that last year, but I still also think technically the further along the more time passes, technically the more they're developing the game. But I kind of feel like this year is a little bit of a mixed bag on the lower end for KH for news. And that's because if we are getting FF7 Part 3 this year, and Square does not usually co-market two big titles like that ever. Now, it is a Disney title technically and not just a Square title, so Disney could just not care, right? They're probably the ones who do the marketing for KH anyways, or part of it. But if this is the year for FF7, I get the feeling KH4 is taking a backseat till next year. Because FF7's anniversary is next year, and they're probably, the way they're talking like the game's basically about to be done, and they're just waiting to announce something. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw FF7 as this year's Summer Games Fest or a random state of play this year. I'm fully expecting it, to be honest, and I'm sure many FF fans are. For KH4, I think we're lucky if we, best case scenario this year, we get a trailer announcing the next announcement. Like we get a trailer that says, hey, we'll be back. See you guys at the 25th anniversary or something like that. That's what I think is best case scenario for KH4. But I don't even know if that's going to happen because I think Part 3 takes priority. And you asked a question earlier that I didn't fully get to answer because we were talking about the worlds. I think one of the biggest reasons as well that Kingdom Hearts 4 is taking so long is because of the Square Enix restructure. My prediction is that, like, I didn't know how deep this restructure was, and I don't think a lot was fully realized how big the restructure was. We probably thought it was just like a tiny thing in the background, but no, this has been a big thing for the company this entire decade, basically, so far. I think what Square internally probably did was they basically paused like any news, marketing, any like unnecessary money or anything towards, or any publicity rather, towards basically anything that wasn't a AA game like Octopath, Dragon Quest, things like that, or Final Fantasy VII, which is like their marquee franchise title right now. I think they basically paused everything that wasn't those two. Like, I'm sure Nomura probably wants to say something, and the team probably wants to say something, but with the restructure going on, they probably don't want to. They don't want to do anything that would potentially affect investors' like opinions or things like that, and they're just waiting for the right time.
Yeah, I like to
That's why I
say
believe.
because we've covered Square and their financial reports pretty extensively on this channel. They're really in not just sort of a restructuring, but in a recovery. They just spent too much money on development. Like I think they spent more money developing Forspoken than Final Fantasy 16. Like they were just fumbling their budgets left and right. As you were sort of alluding to, they've had a lot of AA releases in the last 6 months, be it Dragon Quest, be it Octopath, upcoming The Adventures of Elliot. And the truth is, whether you were looking at the Pixel remasters or previous Octopath games or other games of this like, this has been actually the moneymaker for Square because the budgets
Yeah,
for these smaller games are so much smaller that when they sell 2, 3, 4 million copies, they make a big profit. But when an FF16 or an FF7 Rebirth sells 3, 4, 5 million copies, there's not a lot of profit there. It's not exactly a worthy venture for the company. And again, I love
exactly.
those games. I please don't get that mixed up if you're listening, chat. But the truth is, those AA games have been way more profitable and successful simply because they don't have these giant bloated budgets. Now, Nomura only knows what they must have spent on KH4 already, pre-restructuring, post-restructuring. But kind of like what you're saying, what I think Square's biggest mistake is essentially within 13 months, 3 mainline Final Fantasy games came out. Within 13 months, a new FF14 expansion dropped, Final Fantasy 16 dropped, and FF7 Rebirth dropped. They can't do that.
Yeah.
And you see the fatigue you cause in a general audience. Yes, people like me who are a square shill, I will gobble up all 3 of those games with a smile on my face. But the average gamer is going to pick one. If all 3 of those come out in a year, the average gamer will pick one. So, going to your assessment, I think late 2027, 2028 is the best prediction because FF7 Part 3, as we've seen from their interviews, the game is playable in its entirety. They're just in the polishing and post-production stage. I think they're waiting for the 30th anniversary, and they're either going to drop that at holiday 26 or Jan-Feb 27. That's really what I see. I don't see them dropping it early 26, mid 26. They want it as close to the FF7 30th anniversary as possible. So the truth is, I actually think it's possible we don't see anything about this game until the trilogy is fully out. And with
Yeah.
the trilogy coming out probably in 27, again, to give it more breathing room, because we got to remember, Kingdom Hearts 4 is not the only big game the company's working on. They have Dragon Quest 12, which they have to make room for. And I'm pretty certain the next Final Fantasy mainline game is already in development, not to mention another 14 expansion. So I think what they have to reconcile with is how do we make it that all these big games don't release 2 on top of each other? So if we're looking at an FF7 that's going to come out early 27, late 26, as you're saying, I can't possibly see Kingdom Hearts 4 coming out until at the very earliest the end of that calendar year. That to me does seem like a pretty good prediction. But again, unfortunately, the track record here is I get this wrong every single time. So
Yeah.
2029, gang, that's probably what it's going to be.
Add a take our predictions and add a year or two to them, and that's probably the actual date. I think. Well, to make this clear, by the way, for anyone listening to this who isn't usually familiar with me, I want to make it clear that Final Fantasy VII, we always talk about Kingdom Hearts fans. We always talk about FF7 remake as if it's like a wall like between us and Kingdom Hearts 4. And to be honest, it's kind of true because there's they share our director, so like that's a big thing right there,
well,
right?
not necessarily. Hamaguchi's directing Part 3.
He's
Nomura's just
directing.
the creative director.
Creative director, yeah.
I think
But
it gets
they
in the
are
way of
sharing.
marketing. I think, to be clear, it gets in the way of marketing and what we, the fans, are allowed to see. It's not affecting development times in the slightest, if I'm being honest. I just don't see that. I think in terms of the marketing and what we, the fans, are going to be exposed to, yeah, FF7 kind of is a wall because they're not going to let you see anything until that's done, really, my opinion. But I think when it comes to development, it's 2 different development teams. Sure, they share Nomura and Nojima, but they're not the ones writing the code. They're not the ones creating the assets. They're not the ones who make the gameplay. They're a little bit more flexible than the people who are actually, coding and creating the game. So I think, to your point, FF7 is a wall in terms of marketing and what we're able to see. But I don't see any evidence that the development teams are interfering with each other.
Yeah, development-wise, I'm unsure. I don't think it's probably having a huge effect on Kingdom Hearts 4's actual development. I mean, Nomura and Nojima's time are obviously like split between the games. I'm sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's so many people like under them that are working on that are probably working on the game full time. So the game has been moving, and I'm sure they probably finished up a lot, or they probably finished up deciding a lot of the worlds and so on. So the game's definitely moving forward, that's for sure. But what I was mainly trying to say, I love FF7. I definitely poke fun at FF7 on Twitter a little bit because it's just kind of easy to. It's just funny, right? I'll be real, but I love FF7. Like FF7 is great. Part 3, like I'm definitely gonna be there for that. We are excited for the FF7 trilogy to be finished. Because they are very, very, very good games. I loved Remake. I know some people were a little iffy on like the ending, and they're a little iffy about it being less of a remake and more of a sequel type beat. But
don't get me started. It's not a sequel. I'm gonna blow my head off, man. It is not a sequel.
I'm sorry.
We'll save it for another freaking episode. But keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No matter what side of that fence you're on, I love FF7. I've
Me
had to
too.
like
Me too.
stop. I've had to stop my child. Like, hey, look. Even though I want KH4 like even more, FF7 is great. So we ain't gonna slander FF7, but we are looking for KH fans. This is a Kingdom Hearts discussion. We are looking for when that game comes out for when we can finally see some more Kingdom Hearts. And that's not if Square is planning a bunch of other things, after FF7 instead of KH. Because looking at the financial reports, from the looks of it, it seems like Square is kind of taking they're taking it slow for these years, and they're going to try to end the decade very strong. So like they're late 2027, 2028 and onwards, they're probably planning on having like a AAA title every year from there. From the looks of it, they're just looking at like what seems like their plan. They're trying to release multiple big titles, as they stated, and I'm assuming those big titles are probably things like maybe a new line a new mainline Final Fantasy game, Final Fantasy 17, probably at the very end of this decade. Part 3 coming out soon, probably next year. KH4, new Dragon Quest. I mean, I know Nier. I don't know much about Nier. From what I've been told, Nier's story is basically done. But considering how crazy well Automata sold, because we talked about Square's big three back in the day: Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest. High key Nier deserves to be in that discussion nowadays, because like Nier Automata still selling like crazy copies. Like that game, I don't know. The Nier series is up there, but we don't know what Square is fully planning. I think KH4 definitely 2027, 2028.
Yep, and I think that's a very level-headed analysis. I think it's easy for us to get ahead of ourselves and say, "Oh, maybe they'll sneak it in. Marketing cycles are shorter now. It could just take 6 months. FF7 doesn't have to get in the way." That said, I do think your analysis there is level-headed and correct. And I see some people going off in the chat. I hate to break it to you, Nier will not appear in Kingdom Hearts. Nier is a rated M series.
Nah.
There's no way Disney's going to go for that. I would love it. I think it would be great. I just hate to be the bearer of bad news. Some quick shout outs. Rural Neptune with the membership for 12 months and Lands the Master over on Twitch with 63 freaking months. My man. A lot of love to the two of you. Just wanted to give you a quick shout out before we keep this going. Okay, Prodigy. Now, with all of that out of the way, the Kingdom Hearts story is branching off into many different directions. Whether you're looking at the unreality side of things with Yuzora and Versus 13 and Fabula Nova Crystallis, or you look over at the Master of Masters and the Foretellers and everything that was going to take place in Missing Link and Scala ad Kylum, and then you look at our main cast, maybe primarily our main trio, Kairi training with Aqua, Riku going to Quadratum. There are so many moving threads in this narrative. What is the one that appeals to you the most?
I'm gonna give two answers. The Yuzora versus 13 stuff is very interesting to me.
That's the correct answer objectively, but please keep going.
And then the second answer to that is basically any continuation of the key storyline. I have it's interesting nowadays because some people think I don't like the Key Saga because of my opinions on Missing Link, but I mean you've been around for a while, so I was like one of the few people
You were
covering
bullish
Key.
on it. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was super into that, but I think we're in a generational gap for Kingdom Hearts now. I've been saying that a lot. That fan bases are definitely colliding from different eras now.
Go into that a
But
little bit more. What do you mean by that?
I mean, I have noticed the past couple of years through this drought, a lot of like there's a lot of new faces in the fandom, basically. A lot of new people on social media, people we've never seen before. And a lot of those people don't know about basically anything like to do with the community or like the fandom pre like 2020 2021. Like there's a lot of people who got into the series via the all-in-one collection or through the PC releases, and like that trickle effect over time of people just binging through the series was fine, because that Kingdom Hearts is a very appealing series to binge for a lot of people, because it's the story was not done or anything. It's nowhere near done. But the Dark Seeker saga is done. So like people see the all-in-one package, they see these collections on Steam, on Epic Games, and they're like, "Yo, let me get through this series. Let me chime in, and those people become part of the fandom, and I've just noticed like a big gap in terms of like opinions and just general community knowledge. Not game knowledge, but like community knowledge. Like just a lot of things have happened in the fandom over the years, and it's interesting. Like people don't even know. There's a lot of people who don't even know about Union Cross as a mobile game. They know about it through YouTube synopsis.
And back cover and things like that.
Yeah, it's just like there's a little bit of a generational gap going on. I mean, admittedly, when you look back at it, it makes sense because it's it's been 4 years since we got consistent KH content. Now it's about to be 4 years since KH4, and 2022 was basically the stopping point for us getting like a lot of new information because the last big new piece of Kingdom Hearts content we got was Dark Road Story, and if you're
Yeah.
not into the mobile games, then it was Cage Force trailer, perhaps, or Melody of
Yeah.
Memory, or Cage 3, which is even longer back. So,
The
yeah,
Kyrie anime episode is what I like to call it.
yeah, like we've gone through most of this decade without any substantial mainstream Kingdom Hearts information, and time moves
Wow.
on. Time doesn't stop for anybody.
That
So,
puts it in
yeah, there's
perspective.
just a lot of kids who were probably teenagers when KH3 came out. Uh, they're getting into the fandom. They're talking on Twitter. They're yapping on social media.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of that too. I've definitely seen, you know, for lack of a better term, of a clash. I don't think that's the right word for it, but I have seen
Yeah.
a little bit of that online, and I think it's interesting that because, like you said, while we may not have gotten new games, like you said, we did get like the PC ports, and it did come to Switch. I know there's a whole controversy with that, but a lot of new people have been able to get their hands on the game, and it's one thing that I found funny is that they weren't ready for these wait times. You see, like guys like you and
Oh
I,
no.
and people who have been here forever, like, don't get us wrong, we don't want to be waiting this long, but we were ready to. We were ready to. It's funny to see a lot of new people come around who aren't really sort of used to that yet. But one thing I do say about Kingdom Hearts that I think makes it an easy game to wait for. I know a lot of people may not like me saying that, but what makes it an easy game to wait for is we have more games than most other franchises will ever get, period. So there's so much to go back to. And look, like I'm practically like obsessive with the narrative, but like you go back to Kingdom Hearts 1 and you pick up on things you never saw the first time. And that's as true for Chain of Memories and 2 and those beyond as well. So it's in my opinion, as hard as it is to wait for Kingdom Hearts 4, there's so much to go back and re-experience. And you know what? If you're someone out there and you've never really played Coded or cared about it, give it a shot. Now's a good time to give it a shot. And you know what? I believe that the story of Coded makes Kingdom Hearts 3 better. And I wish more people knew that going into Kingdom Hearts 3 back in the day, because to truly, in my opinion, so many people love Roxas, right? Coded's kind of a big deal for
Yeah.
Roxas in a lot of ways. I know I'm kind of spinning off topic here a little bit, but there's things like that that can be
Oh, yeah.
re-experienced and re-enjoyed. But to go off your answer, the Yozora stuff is really what I'm the most fascinated about. And I was that way from the second we saw that secret movie. But I will say, once we saw, and I know it's technically the non-canon ending, but once we saw him encase Sora in crystal stasis, winking towards Fabula Nova Crystallis, which was always the vision for Versus 13 and the crossover with Kingdom Hearts, that to me is just like that's something where that's what I've had trouble waiting for. Because I'm like, you can't tease me like this. Okay, Yozora and the Versus 13 angle is one thing. But if you're going to start roping in Fabula Nova Crystallis, and now the tower in Daybreak Town is going to look just like the tower in Final Fantasy Type O, now you're playing with me, and I'm going to need some answers. However, aside from that, I've got to be honest, what I am most excited about, and I may eat shit for this in the future. I'm really excited for Kyrie's next arc. And yes, I say next arc because she has had a full arc, and I will fight to the end to convey that. But I'm really excited for what they're going to do with Kyrie, because I may eat shit for this. People might think I'm coping. I think they're setting her up for something incredible. And you know what? I don't
I
have
think
to
there are
explain
two.
myself any further than that. But other than the Yozora angle, I really think the Kyrie and Aqua angle is going to be something that's going to really pay off in the future.
I really hope so because I think I think this saga, if they're especially if they're preparing to end the series, I predict Kingdom Hearts is probably going to do like a ending the series where it started sort of way. And I
Hmm.
think the best way to do something like that is to they should focus this next arc heavily on the Destiny trio and their connections.
Yes.
Um, and I think Kyrie's a big part of that, has been a major part of that for the entire series. Sora's main motivation throughout the series. I think I think Kyrie is being subbed for something big. I just really hope that they actually execute on it. I hope it's something like worthwhile. I hope it's something that satisfies like the people who have been, I don't know, crapping on Kyrie for years basically. To get more into the Yozora stuff though, I think Yozora and the reason I'm so excited for anything to do with Yozora in the next arc is because I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this since Remind. I feel like Yozora brought back mystery to Kingdom Hearts. Not to say
Mm.
Kingdom Hearts is mysterious. Like the whole series is built off of mystery. That's what the lore is. But I feel like for a lot of Kingdom Hearts games, especially Kingdom Hearts games, I want to say, probably after Birth by Sleep, it was a lot of building up to like a single point, building up to that Keyblade War,
Hmm.
right? And when you think about it as a fan, if you have been into the series for a long time, that wait from Birth by Sleep or from Dream Drop even all the way up to KH3 was a whole 7 year, like that was a 7 year wait. And it's like during that entire time, we had a lot of theories, we had a lot of like things we were talking about that would be new to the franchise, new lore, new story details, and those things did happen in Kingdom Hearts 3. But a lot of the talks, and especially it didn't help that trailers did spoil us a little bit, but a lot of those talks were about how something was going to happen
Mm.
rather than what was going to happen. And with Yozora, I feel like there's a lot more what, and what translates to a lot more mystery and a lot more like we genuinely don't know where they could go. Because as much as we can, make parallels to Versus 13, this is still a different thing. This is still
Yep.
something that is loosely off of it, but it's in the Kingdom Hearts universe. So how is that storytelling going to mesh in with Kingdom Hearts? Because Versus 13 was originally going to be this very one of the darkest Final Fantasies, very dark Final Fantasy, kind of Shakespearean, like edgy Shakespearean type of like story, and it was going to be crazy, right?
Hmm.
But Nomura's reimagining that into the Kingdom Hearts franchise, and I just really wonder like what he's going to do with it. How important is Yozora? Like what's this king stuff going on?
He,
There's that whole like thing 13th vessel found in like the files years ago. Like you are not the true Keyblade bearer or whatnot. Why is Riku there? Because we always talk about how we talk about Sora and Yozora, but I have like a theory that Yozora is basically a parallel of Sora, but he's really a parallel of Riku because Riku was supposed to get the Keyblade. So it's like he's a parallel of what Sora became, if that makes any sense. Like the Keyblade wielder, the hero in the story, because even in KH3 and Toy Box, Yozora or Sora is like, he looks a little more like Riku actually,
hmm.
and I think they're gonna play into that more because I don't know.
Well,
There's a lot going on with
here
Yozora
I'm
that
going
I'm
to start
super
twisting.
interested
I'm going to
in.
start twisting it. We got to remember that Riku appearance isn't what he really looks like, right?
Yeah,
So,
that too.
yeah, this is what you're saying about that mystery, and I really like that you said that because I think you're right that a lot of the buildup was about how something was going to happen, and now we're in a place of well, what is going to happen and why is it happening, which I think is actually a much more exciting place to be. Which another reason why I glaze
Exactly.
KH3 the way I do, I think it threaded the line between both being a finale and launching the next saga, which is not an easy thing to do. But going back to the Yozora of it all, you know, obviously with the name Verum Rex, which means true king, you brought up that the thing 13 vessel uncovered. You're not the real Keyblade wielder in the sense. Like obviously this is allude in my opinion. I don't want to say obviously. In my opinion, I think this is alluding to the fact that Sora wasn't meant to hold the Keyblade. And I don't want
Yeah.
to say it too absolutist like that, but in the sense that it was supposed to be Riku and it became Sora. So the whole Verum Rex True King dynamic, I'm wondering what they're going to do with that. Does Yozora see Sora as some kind of virus? Like, oh,
And
you're
then
the
you
one
tie that
who's
in
yeah,
to all the Fate stuff in KH3.
yep,
Like, it's crazy because I remember back in the day, this don't sound really cringe, but one of my KH3 reactions, like in the last a couple months before the game released, when they revealed the opening quote to KH3, I had first reacted to that thinking to myself, wait, is a Brave world coming? Because that was just my immediate thought. I was like, because Brave is a big story about Fate. But surprisingly, I'd say most of three didn't talk. Well, three did talk about that very heavily. It was a game where like they are foreshadowing constantly. I know a lot of people didn't like this scene, but they're foreshadowing constantly to Sora's basically death or
disappearance.
erasure from the world of light. Yeah, and it's like I don't know, like sort like you said, that whole virus thing, and then remember in Union Cross, like Brain was talking about like a virus, or the secret reports were talking about a virus and whatnot. It's I don't know. I know that was for Union Cross, but it's just interesting to contextualize that stuff now. Like I don't know, there's a lot of what, and I'm very interested. There's so much mystery, and I think this is a perfect segue actually into talking about marketing, because that's people's favorite subject sometimes with KH4. We always A lot of people who are more apologetic about this drought say, maybe it's a good thing because Square has a tendency to overshow, overspoil, especially for their final trailers. They don't have. I know it's different cultures, but they can spoil a lot about the story sometimes in these trailers or about the narrative, because I think they don't give their fans enough credit for how they decipher things. And admittedly, this is definitely a social media thing. I don't think Square was prepared for that, because I think if they dropped most of these trailers in the 2000s, people would have saw maybe half of them and
Hmm.
would not be as like they wouldn't have known as much. Because we look back at KH1, 2, or other games trailers, uh, they've kind of been doing the same thing for Cage forever. 3 isn't a unique thing necessarily. They've been spoiling Cage forever in trailers. But still, what do you think? What do you think about the marketing, and what do you think like their approach should be for that? Because
I
I
think
personally think Remind was perfect. If they
yes.
do a Remind approach, that's beautiful.
The beautiful thing about Remind is the marketing almost made it look like a ripoff in the sense that it just looked like you were playing through the Keyblade graveyard again. You know, they didn't show you what was waiting for you at the end. They didn't show you like your confrontation with Xehanort and he was going to guide you through Skylad Kylum and kind of taunt you the whole way through and stuff. Like, yeah, they really did a good job leaving all of that out and kind of just showing you the basic stuff. I think what puts them in a difficult spot is that so much of their marketing is about this Disney World, that Disney World, that Disney World, that Disney World. And then they need to throw a bone to maybe people like us who are more interested in the overall narrative of the original
Yeah.
characters. And I think they got caught up showing Aqua getting Norded, Sora on his knees, no, moments that really are your first experience should have been novel, should have been as you were playing it, not through a trailer. But I will
Yeah.
say, like you said, they did a great job with Remind. They did a great job with Melody of Memory, right? They showed us the black hood. They didn't tell us who was behind the hood. Everyone thought it was going to be the Master of Masters. Xehanort it was, baby. He ain't going anywhere. Another story for another day. But if you look at games like FF7, they're not doing the KH3 treatment. Let's just put it that way. Their marketing for their other games have not been spoiling the story the way the KH3 trailers did. So I
They
actually
dialed it
do
back.
think Square Enix has learned their lesson and realized, like, hey, even though these big hype moments are some of the best of what we have to offer, trust your fan base and like just trust that you don't have to dangle the tastiest carrot to get people to buy your game. You can just show us
Yeah.
the basics of it all. You know, maybe a snippet of Yozora there, a snippet of the Master there, but don't show us any meaningful dialogue or meaningful moments. Do not show us Mickey, you're too late. Maybe you could have just shown a quick cut of Aqua's back and you see her hair is slightly getting silver. You know, just things like
Yeah.
that I think would be a much better way to handle it. But if we're looking at their track record post KH3, they've done a mostly good job about it. I will say I do see Dark Dragon in the chat is saying except the Rebirth launch trailer, which I will say, like, if you're an
Don't
old
look at
school
launch trailers.
FF7 fan, you could read between those lines. If you were like a newer fan, it was probably a little bit harder to see, but I see your point.
I think I actually do not look at marketing for like most games out for RPGs. I don't look at most marketing for games outside of Cage. I think I did go back and look at Final Fantasy VII Remakes marketing, and oh my gosh, I actually haven't looked at a single trailer for Rebirth at all. I don't like, well, aside from the one at Summer Games, like aside from the ones that were shown at gaming events, I have not looked at others that were released outside of like events or anything. Um, for Kingdom Hearts, I think I agree with you. I, I actually, I'll say this because I know there's a little bit of revisionist history. I don't know if I'd say revisionist history, but I find because after the fact with KH3, hindsight's 2020, it's easy to say, yeah, all the marketing sucked, and it wasn't all of it. Most of KH3's marketing, I think, was fine. Like the majority of it, I'd say. I think it
Mm.
was really those last couple of months. It was TGS, and I I said this when TGS was happening, TGS in 2018. I said this live because we were live with chat and we were watching the TGS Kingdom Hearts 3 showcase, and they just showed Sora versus Antioch like the first couple seconds of the fight, and I'm like, why are you showing me this? What? What is going on? And you have the Big Hero 6 Keyblade too. I'm like, so I know it's
Mhm.
after Big Hero 6 more than likely. It,
Oh,
it
it's
was just
such a
like
good point.
it was so like that was the moment. And they also during that same weekend showed like the back of Rox's head. And it's like people were trying to say back then, well, if it's not Rox, well, if he's Nora, I'm like, bro, it's Rox. Like,
Mhm.
let's be real here, you know? But I think it was
Well, I
really
don't know,
those
man. If
last
you
couple of
played
months.
Coded, you knew Roxas was coming. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
like
Like the whole story was leading up to it, like to the days true in general returning. I think the Aqua stuff, I think it would have been everything would be better if you played it blind, right? This
mhm.
period. But I think the Aqua trailer was actually mostly okay. But
If
I
that was
think
the
where they really
one
messed up.
thing, if that was like the one thing, then
Yeah.
yes. But the fact is, there was like it was a multitude of moments like that that got
Yeah.
spoiled.
You know what I think really messed up KH3 and messed up its narrative? Because I think a lot of people a lot more people watch the trailers for KH3 than we give them credit for. Those trailers got millions of views when they were released, and millions of people will buy the games too. I think where they really messed up for spoiling KH3 was, or just this pacing in general, was showing the org members in every Disney World.
Yep.
I know it sounds like such a tiny thing because you can look back at KH3 and you're like, oh, well, they just kind of did the cat and mouse thing like usual, right? But think about this. Imagine Chain of Memories happened. Fan base was obsessed over Chain of Memories for years. Marluxia was barely in any other game aside from Days for basically ever. Basically only in Days and like Chain of Memories, right? And first time you ever see Marluxia back in the organization is when you play KH3 for the first time and it's in the Tangled world. Imagine that
Hmm.
reaction. Like if that just wasn't spoiled from like longtime KH fans. It would have been crazy. Wait, he's one of the 13? That's insane.
Yeah. Such a good point.
Think of other moments like Larxene. It would make the Larxene moment hit a lot more. I think like because they've showed a lot of the dialogue between the org members, also basically telling people what they're looking for. A lot of those cutscenes in those Disney worlds, like they showed up in trailers, they gave you the gist of some of the key plot points the world was going to be about. Them looking for the box. They mentioned the box multiple times in trailers and in Disney worlds. Um, you already saw part of that Marluxia and Sora interaction and Tangled, and it's like I think it led to a lot of people saying that these Disney worlds are filler or they don't really do anything when really they do a lot. They do a lot for the story. They do a
Hmm.
lot for building up towards that ending because Sora doesn't know
Lots
a
of
lot of
foreshadowing in the
information.
Disney worlds for KH3.
So much foreshadowing. I'd say even more than most
Yep.
Disney worlds in the series. Like I don't know. Like it's crazy because when I first played KH3, I was saying to myself, "Dang, this is like some of the best they've done with the story in the Disney world since KH1." And I
Yep.
genuinely thought that at the time because I wasn't looking at it from the perspective, "Oh, I got spoiled on this." I was taking it for what it was, what they were talking about, and how it like meshed into the overall narrative at the end. I thought they did that super great. But for a lot of people who aren't as like chronically obsessed as I am, they're taking it more at like a face value. They take the Disney words more at a face value. which most people do. So it's like, okay, where's the next like big moment at? But the big moments, I think, in the Disney worlds were those characters showing up, and they spoiled it all. And it's just kind of like that sucks.
Well,
That sucks a lot.
Well, I think that makes a good segue because I do want to ask you about this. Is that Nomura's talked about KH4 mixing up the formula. And of course, he was pretty vague about
Yep.
that, decided not to expand on that in the slightest, just thought he'd drop that little nugget for us to spin on for years. Do you think this structure that most Kingdom Hearts, especially all three numbered titles, have obeyed, which is you start in the original world, you set off to some Disney worlds, stopping by an original world here or there, and then your end game, you're in the original worlds again? Do you think that's what he means when he mixes up the formula? Because I'm not going to go so far as to say that that's getting stale, but I do think a lot of fans would welcome if we just weren't going through that same organizational narrative, for lack of a better term, that it's like, okay, you're going to start at Destiny Islands or in Twilight Town or or in Yen Sid's Tower, and then you're gonna go to the Disney worlds, and then you'll make stops, and then at the end, I don't just sort of that formula of Disney worlds being sandwiched in between the original worlds, and in a sense, a narrative more focused on thematics and foreshadowing and symbolism sandwiched between the actual crucial events taking place. Do you think what he means by that is that you're going to see much more of a mix up between original world and Disney worlds? Not saying there'll be less and more of each, but that you're going to see more of a back and forth. So that it's not that, okay, you're at an original world, then you're going to set off to 3 Disney worlds before you come back to an original one. Do you think what he may have meant by that is we may have a little bit more of a back and forth, or perhaps the player will be able to choose what order they want to do the Disney worlds in? Like, I'm still trying to figure out exactly what he meant by that, because when we look at the trailer, it looks like the gameplay is going to follow the same formula. We see the same command menu and everything like that. So
Yeah.
I immediately went to, I think he's talking about the order and the formula in which we visit all these worlds. Like, where do you land on all of that?
Really. I think what Nomura means. I don't have quite a
All
definitive
speculate
answer
at the
because
risk of
I
getting anyone's hopes
spe-
up or expectations. This is all
yeah,
speculation.
pure speculation. I think he's talking about Quadratum. I don't think he's talking about gameplay at all, actually. But if
Yeah.
he is, that'd be cool. Nomura is more involved in the gameplay than people think, but I do think Nomura focuses more on the narrative than the gameplay for sure. He focuses more on if a certain gameplay element makes sense for the story he's telling. I think he's talking about Quadratum, and I actually think we are going to do the same formula. Which is interesting because I think I feel like a lot of the criticism for KH3 is KH3's lack of like traditional formula because you won't start in an original world, you start in Olympus, and the
Olympus, but
original
I more
world,
meant like you're at Yen Sid's
yeah.
tower. The story starts there. But
No, I get what you
yeah.
mean completely. It's just I do think we're going to have more of a back and forth with Quadratum, hopefully. Um, I'm thinking Quadratum is probably going to be the biggest original world they've ever done. And what he means by changing the foundation is he's going to make a world that you've never seen in Cage before, or at least the type of world it is. I think we're going to let's use San Fran as a base. This is my theory for Quadratum speculation wise. Hopefully, I made a video about this at the beginning of the year talking about the big risk Quadratum is because if it this world I think is going to decide for a lot of people if Kingdom Hearts is still worth it. And I know I make that sound so grandiose, but like I think even if you're not thinking about it, I think it's going to play a big part because this is the world that basically the next saga is using as a foundation. It's the world that's going to show okay, how are we evolving the Kingdom Hearts franchise, and is it a good evolution that feels like a proper step forward, or is it kind of more of the same, or is it taking us back even? Quadratum, I think, needs to be a very expansive original world that is unlocking constant new areas, unlocking constant new things, as you progress through each and every Disney World. I think there needs to be a lot of incentive to go back and forth and interact and have that constant interaction with Quadratum. I'm a the closest comparison I can make in Kingdom Hearts might be something like Traverse Town. Now, Traverse Town is not a huge world by any means in KH1. It's a decently sized world. It's very fun. You unlock new things via Trinities later in the game and whatnot, but like you're not You unlock new things with Merlin, but you don't have to go back there after every world. But one thing I pointed out, talking with some friends, is one thing in KH1, because we were talking about we were having a conversation about the Moogle shop. Something that makes KH1 feel more, or makes KH1 Traverse Town feel more like a hub world. And I think Quadratum wants to be a hub world.
Oh,
I
I'd
think it
love that.
should be a proper hub world.
I'd love
Is
that.
in Traverse Town, the way Moogle shops were in KH1, the most updated Moogle shops were almost always in Traverse Town. They were not like every shop just had like a lot of different stuff throughout KH1. So like you were very incentivized to go to the accessory shop or go do synthesis. Go back
Hmm.
to Traverse Town and do synthesis. Buy your potions, buy your Dawn and Goofy like weapons and staffs. If you're someone like me who did actually upgrade their weapons and stuff when they first played KH1, like you're incentivized to go back to Traverse Town when you wanted to do all of that. In future Kingdom Hearts games, if there's a Moogle there, you have access to everything purchase wise, which
Hmm.
is fine. It's accessible, and for the modern gamer, that's great, to be honest. But I think for Quadratum, it needs unique features and unique things that incentivize you to interact with it. But I think they can't just do it from a gameplay perspective. They have to do it from a story perspective. So I'm very curious how that's going to be. And a factor that we're not even talking about as much is Riku. This is definitely going to be a mostly Sora game, but
Absolutely.
I wonder how much Riku will be involved if he is. And then there's also Yozora as well. Like I'm sure Nomura wanted Yozora playable at one point. The only reason I speculate about him being playable now is I don't even know how many more KH games we have left. Like we probably have 3 if I had to guess, and that might even be a lot.
Hmm. Yeah, I think so. I do want to say, I think the idea of making Quadratum a hub world that you're going to continuously come back to, I think that's genius. I think if they don't do that, that's a huge missed opportunity on Square's part. Um, but I think one of my main criticisms about Square is their level design. And I think they've gotten better with it. And in fact, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 is an example of them improving on it in the sense that Kingdom Hearts used to be very grounded in its level design, especially if you think about Kingdom Hearts 2, the hallway action simulator. I love that game.
Yep.
Not knocking it, just calling it for what it is. What I
It is a
think
hallway game.
Yeah, exactly. What Kingdom Hearts 3 did well is its level design went vertical. With Airstep, now you weren't just traveling flat plains with raised platforms. Now there was a whole vertical aspect to all these worlds that could be explored. And I think that was really a really good addition. But one of my major criticisms of their level design is what you brought up, something that they did pretty well in Kingdom Hearts 1 is in my opinion one of the best things you could do in an RPG is give the player a reason to go back somewhere they've previously been. And honestly, it's so crazy to say this. And a great example of this are the old school Pokemon games. Because then when you unlock all those HMs and then you go back to the early towns, suddenly all these places that were closed off to you are now available. I would like to see a lot more of that so that maybe, like you're saying, how do you link this with the narrative? Maybe Sora unlocks an ability in each world. And then when you come back to Quadratum, a whole new sector is now available for exploration. These are the kind of changes that I want to see be made. Again, it's one of the things I loved about KH3 was them shake up that bag of level design and add a whole new dimension to it. But now I want to see them sort of incorporate not just the hub world idea that you said, which I think would be absolutely genius, but again, sort of this idea of give the player a reason to go back. So that even after they've beaten the game, they want to go back. Things like that, I think they can do to really level up the experience. Another thing when it comes to the quote unquote formula, I think these games have to get longer. All right, if you're gonna make look, I'm
I
fine.
do
You're
too.
gonna make me wait the better part of a decade, fine, whatever. But don't give me a 24-hour experience. Bump this up to 35. Bump this up to 40. Make it a longer game. That's something I think that they need to do because your average RPG this day is getting up there to the better part of 30, 40 hours. I would like to see Kingdom Hearts get there because to me, I feel like each number title can be cleared between 20 and 30. I'd like to see that maybe
Yeah.
move up to 30 to 40. Do you have any particular thoughts on that?
I'm so mixed on it.
Okay.
Uh I think cuz I do like shorter games myself. Like I naturally like shorter games, but I agree that Kingdom Hearts needs to be longer if it's going to do everything it wants to do. Because it almost feels like Kingdom Hearts has so much like ambition and like potential for a lot of things that they just don't get to fully flesh out conceptually because you have all these great like media franchises they're putting into Kingdom Hearts, like Disney movies, and stuff, and such great original world concepts that they don't always flesh out the way they want to. And you could argue that post Kingdom Hearts 1, a lot of Kingdom Hearts games, rather than kind of like how to describe it, rather than being made as if it's the last game, which Kingdom Hearts 1 was, which I feel like is why they went all out in so many areas for KH1. A lot of games feel like story simulators a little bit. And that's not to knock on any game at
I know
all,
what you
because
mean,
I
though.
we love the KH story. But even in KH3, it's like we're so immersed into the story, we're so immersed into the game. It's like the levels, the gameplay, all of it's like kind of secondary to the story that's moving forward. It's like there's no like when you're done with the world most of the time, you're done. You know, maybe you want to go for the 100% with chest or something like that, but they need to have more incentive to go back to our previous convo to like fully immerse yourself into the environment. But I think it's an issue. It's a hard balance for Kingdom Hearts to have because I think it would be easier if they did have all original properties, but they also have to acknowledge what I think is where a lot of the divisiveness comes from today to a degree. A lot of fans are getting a lot older. A lot of us, when we got into Kingdom Hearts 1 a couple of years ago, or when we got into Kingdom Hearts many years ago, my bad.
I was to say
Uh,
you threw me there for a
I
minute.
said,
I was like, what year is
I'm just
this?
yapping. But when we got to Kingdom Hearts many years ago, a lot of us we were younger probably, and you know we were maybe a lot more willing to have fun and be immersed into a Wonderland world or Tarzan or Tron or Pirates. But there's a lot of fans who are a lot older nowadays, and you know Disney doesn't quite get them as excited as they used to. Me, I do still have a lot of that whimsy from like liking Disney movies. I like a lot of current Disney movies as well. Like personally, aside from Star Wars, which I don't really consider a Disney property, but you know, yeah, Star Wars. Aside from Star Wars being one of my most wanted worlds, I really badly want worlds like Moana and Kanto. I want some of those old Pixar movies to come in, like Incredibles. I don't know. Maybe we get an official Ratatouille world. Maybe they do something like Inside Out. Like I'm still super excited about the worlds of Kingdom Hearts, and I was even talking with some other creators the other day on Discord about how I wouldn't mind if some worlds were even a bit longer, because if they're making, like you said, if they're making us wait for these games for so long, I'm so excited for a Star Wars world. I don't want to just be an hour and just move on. You know, I want to,
Hmm.
as something I'm super excited for. I want that to be like I don't know. I want to immerse. I want to have enough time in that world to feel like I fully immersed myself into it before I get out. But I know a lot of people don't feel that way. For a lot of people, for me, a 3 hour Star Wars world would be pretty peak. I would love that. I would love to be in a Star Wars world, do gameplay, do puzzles, or do whatever with Luke Skywalker for as long as I can. But for many people, that would be torture for them because
Yeah.
they maybe don't care about Star Wars. They want to see an org member on their screen. You know, if there's not an organization character on screen, nothing's canon, as a lot of people say. It's I don't know. It's a hard balance for Kingdom Hearts to grasp, but I do think games should be longer, and I am open to it. But I don't think the short games are bad at the same time. I just think if they want to reach more of their goals, if they want to, if they want to fully realize all their like visions for Cage, I think a longer game would do them right. Maybe not 40 hours, but I think maybe if they got the average of being like 30 or above,
Hmm.
that'd be cool. Because most Cage stories can be beaten in 25 or under first
Yep.
playthrough, maybe 20 or under first playthrough. When I replay these games nowadays, I'm doing it in like 12 with cutscenes. It's insane how quick these games are.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think Kingdom Hearts 3 had somewhat of like 10 hours of cutscenes, which means you're really only playing for 15 hours. So
Yeah.
I guess I'll be clear that when I want a longer game, don't get me wrong, more cutscenes would be fine, but mostly what I want is more gameplay. Um,
Yep.
but sort of going on to, what you're saying, a lot of us have gotten older, but even somebody like me, I've got gray hairs in my beard for Christ's sakes, but like doesn't mean that I don't want the whimsy Disney aspect like you say, but I think Square would also be wise to understand that their core fan base has gotten older. And your core
Yeah.
fan base is gonna, and honestly, I think this is a lot of what Quadratum and Yozora is, and Master of Masters and Foretellers. That I think what you're gonna want is a little bit more of a mature angle on Kingdom Hearts. Now, I'm not saying make it rated T for teen. I'm not saying no more Princesses of Heart. I'm not getting to that at all. I think, maintain your ESRB rating at E, have Disney princesses, all of that. I'm not saying gut the series identity in any way, but I think kind of
Yeah.
what you're getting at is they would be wise to sort of take an angle that considers that their fan base has gotten older, especially in this drought. We've all aged half a decade since,
Yeah. I'm
it's
about to
it's
be
it's
married, so yeah.
something worth considering. So I think that's a good idea. And I think you're right, 40 hours may be a bit much, but getting closer to that 30, 35 and primarily supplementing it with gameplay, I think is something that in the long run they're going to have to do. Like you see that that's the sort of length and sort of what the length of FF7 remake was. I think is the good wheelhouse. Rebirth took
I agree.
took longer than remake, so that might be a little bit too long for a Kingdom Hearts game, but I think that remake length and cutscene to gameplay balance is, I think that's the sweet spot for Square when it comes to KH4.
I actually completely agree with you. There was this little wave for a bit when remake first came out, where a lot of the people who didn't like KH3 were very jealous of remake because they felt like remake had everything they wanted from KH3.
Could
And
be
I
like me,
mean,
you could just
from
love
the
both. You could just love
or you,
both.
I love both personally. You know how the community can be sometimes.
Yeah.
I loved uh I loved remake, and I think for the world discussion we were having, I think it fits very well because I never thought about that before, but I do feel like in remake, I was able to fully immerse myself into every like chapter and section that I was in because it felt like it lasted a decently long time,
Hmm.
had side quests. I know for some people they don't like side quests nowadays. I like side quests.
I love them when they're
I'm
good.
not like yeah, like don't get me wrong, some side quests are boring versus others. There can be boring side quests, they exist, but I'm not as harsh on side quests as I would be main story content. So if there's a side quest that's like, hey, go fetch this or go fight some enemies, it's like, oh, okay, I can complete a quest while also like leveling up, my characters. That's pretty sick. That sounds like a win-win to me. Like I don't mind stuff like that, but I know for a lot of people they feel like it's a chore a little bit. But I've never mind stuff like that. I wanted to ask you something because we started talking about kind of the age demographic for Kingdom Hearts, and I wanted to talk about not just Cage but Square Enix as a whole because I'm kind of forming this opinion. I don't really think Square Enix nowadays is really appealing to younger audiences as much as they used to. Now, admittedly, they
You're
have
right.
definitely this decade have been a little bit more on the back burner. So maybe these newer games will like bring in a slew of just younger fans who want to catch up and get into the series and stuff. I'm very interested in like the trickle down effect because I think part three. I don't really think part three is going to sell super crazy numbers or anything, but I think what is going to do crazy is like that full trilogy. Them
Yep.
having the full trilogy out is going to do wonders for all
Numbers.
those games. Part three is going to make part one, part two just go up in copies like crazy.
Well, especially when
But
you consider, if you're familiar with FF7, a remake and rebirth only cover disc one. Like the majority of the
yeah,
game is still
yep,
waiting for us.
yeah, completely true. Um, but I actually think Kingdom Hearts is one of the only games or franchises they have that
Yep.
clearly does appeal to younger audiences a bit. And it's clearly because of a little bit because of the Disney and Kingdom Hearts is a more I don't know how to describe it. I feel like when you look at Kingdom Hearts, I don't know what words to use to describe it, but like it's very colorful. It's very easy for a kid to like get into and
It's
look at and
whimsical. It
I'd
has that
be
sort of whimsical, colorful vibe. It's so funny. Like you
yeah,
bringing this up. KH3 is the last time I can remember like really young people. And when I say that,
yeah,
like I remember going to my friend had like a birthday party for his kid, and they were all like all these little kids were around the TV playing Kingdom Hearts 3, and kind of what you're saying is there's no other Square Enix property that can achieve that.
Yeah. I know people hate on Frozen in Kingdom Hearts, but I have a little cousin who we were at Disney World last summer doing a Disney trip with my mom's side of the family, and my little cousin, I don't know, my brother and them were bringing up like my YouTube and Kingdom Hearts and this and that, and one of them said that she loves Frozen and like Let It Go and stuff. She's like 4 years old, and she heard Frozen was in Kingdom Hearts and was like, "Oh, I want to see it. Let me see Frozen." I'm just thinking to myself, like, that's what the Disney side of KH does. I know for us, we're mostly talking to like older KH fans. KH fans who are like
But
a
but
little deeper
Star
into
Wars
life, I
has
guess.
always been able to achieve that, right? I think this is what makes Kingdom Hearts appealing is that like Kingdom Hearts is
Yeah.
for everyone. Like Kingdom Hearts is the kind of thing like Star Wars that like you can pass it on to your kids. You can experience it with your kids. You can share it with your kids. Whereas, a rated M game like Final Fantasy 16 or Near Automata, that's not necessarily going to fly. Now, that doesn't mean that you water the game down to be a baby game, but it means that you approach it in a way that it remains compatible while also satisfying older audiences. And again, I think, the first 6 Star Wars movies are a great example of that. A series that is, primarily experienced and supported by adults, but it's compatible enough that children can get into it. And,
Yeah.
I think that's a very unique angle that Kingdom Hearts has, that even though as we're talking, I would like for the series to mature in a sense, I don't want them to lose that.
100%.
I
Because
think that would be
that's
terrible to lose that. Yeah.
that's kind of what I was talking about. I think Kingdom Hearts specifically, I think I don't know the full age demographic for KH. I mean, only Square knows that, of course. But if I had to guess, I do feel like there's a lot of KH fans that are a lot older. This is what I was talking about earlier with the generational gap a bit,
Boomer
because
KH fans,
these fa-
rise up.
these fa- yeah, these fan bases are mixing. I am not like super old. I'm like turning 25 in June, but I've been into the series since I was like 3 or 4. Like I've literally been in the series since I was playing video games. Basically, it was one of my first video games ever, and I'm still with it. So
Mhm.
I am not. I don't know. I am a boomer KH fan, I guess, which is interesting.
You're more
But
Gen X KH fan. I'm
Gen
Expedition
Gen X
33
KH
years old,
fan.
so I'm a boomer KH fan. But going
You say
into that, I,
Expedition
I remember the
33?
first time I've talked about
Great.
it a lot on this show, but it's such a pivotal moment for me. Is I remember the first time I saw Kingdom Hearts. I was 9, 10 years old, just about, and to see and like I was at the point where like I still liked Disney, but I was like growing out of it, quote unquote, and
At 10
not that
years
you can't
old?
grow out of it, but as a kid, your interests change. So, quote
Yeah.
unquote, growing out of it. And one of the things I started to really get into was Final Fantasy. My cousin put me onto it. And I remember seeing that trailer. And I was like, wait, Simba and Cloud Strife are in a game together? And it was like
Yeah.
a reality warping moment for me. Cause like that sort of thing just didn't happen. You had Batman and Superman, right? But you didn't have Cloud Strife and Simba. Like it was such a
Yeah.
mind blowing thing for me to look at. So, and in a way, I feel like that almost captures the spirit of Kingdom Hearts, right? It has it's yearning to hold on to a whimsical childhood while also confronting the hardships of growing up and adulthood that Final Fantasy more so tackles than Disney. So there's such a unique dynamic there between the two that I think speaks to a lot of people, honestly, no matter what age you are. One thing I wanted to ask you about, because you're kind of talking about how there's, again, for lack of a better term, a clash again between like new KH fans, old KH fans, or different pockets of the fan bases. It's funny. People always say like, "Oh, the Kingdom Hearts community." I'm like, there is no freaking Kingdom Hearts community. You have 4 unions who don't talk to each other and are fighting over the light. But anyway, I know that there's some Kingdom Hearts fans that have never experienced Final Fantasy or just don't really have an interest in it. And there's kind of part of me that almost wants to like playfully wring them at the neck. And I'm just like, if you love Kingdom Hearts, you will love Final Fantasy, or there is a Final Fantasy out there that you will love. And frankly, if you play, especially those PS1 era Final Fantasies like FF7, FF8, the ones that, and FF10, PS2, the ones that tend to overlap with Kingdom Hearts, you can learn a lot about Kingdom Hearts and its identity. Like, it's funny, I talked to some fans, and it's almost like outside of the characters, they don't understand how much of Final Fantasy's identity is embedded within Kingdom Hearts.
Oh
And
yeah,
that's
so
why,
much.
adversely, I also got frustrated with some fans who were like, the characters were barely in 3. Why are you taking Final Fantasy out of Kingdom Hearts? And I'm like, did you see Zeta Flare? Like, did you see the Fabula Nova Crystallis? Did you see Yozora? Like, it hasn't gone anywhere. But Leon and Yuffie and the Radiant Garden Gang, their story has been told. Their story has been
Yeah.
told. And anyway, like, I guess, do you share in that sentiment that you would really suggest a lot of those fans to find a Final Fantasy to give a try? Because I genuinely believe it'll lead you to loving Kingdom Hearts more. Like, did you feel that when you played FF7 in 2019? Did it make you love Kingdom Hearts more? Did it maybe make you see things in
Yes.
a little bit of a different way? How did that affect you?
Yes. So I want to be clear on how much Final Fantasy I've gone into. Not a lot. I'm basically I am the part of the cringe part for Final Fantasy fans where I've only played FF7.
Okay.
Like I have not done anything else yet. Well, I played most of Final Fantasy 1 through the Pixel remasters, and I liked it a lot more than I thought I would. But
Mhm.
I'm surrounded by people who love Final Fantasy a lot. I do think you will love Kingdom Hearts more if you play Final Fantasy. At least narratively, right? Like if you're gameplay wise, I know some people are like big on action versus turn based, but story wise, world wise, aesthetic wise, if you want to understand like the core of KH, like nothing Landy said was wrong. Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy is embedded heavily into Kingdom Hearts' structure. Even the action I know it's an action game versus turn-based games, but like the way Kingdom Hearts does its action combat is completely inspired by Final Fantasy's command systems.
Mm, mm,
Completely. The way it does
good point.
magic, the way the like I don't know, the progression systems of Kingdom Hearts. Now they formed that into an action game so well, and it's kind of one of the reasons FF7's action and the way it melds action and turn based, it's mostly action if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, it's the reason it's so praised because they had Kingdom Hearts to kind of like experiment with leading up to something like that. And I don't know, it's amazing. It's really well. So there's definitely a Final Fantasy game for you out there, whether it's seven. I think seven's a safe one to get into. That there's
Definitely.
new content coming out for it, so that's the easy one for a lot of people. I know a lot of people like FF9 who are also Cage fans. If you want to go down the FF15 rabbit hole, learn more about that 13. There's a lot of stuff, but
Well,
I know
13
Lanny can
now,
talk about that more than me.
I'll say that too. 13, I'm telling, like, 13's going to be huge in Kingdom Hearts. Now that doesn't mean that Lightning and all of them are coming to the game, but there's a lot that was established in FF13 and Type O, like with Fabula Nova Crystallis. Like, there's a lot of overlap between things like Daybreak Town and Quadratum and everything going on that came from that era. And I get into this a lot because not a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans know this, but when Versus 13 was being constructed, Nomura always had the intent to cross it over with Kingdom Hearts. Noctis, or as we know him now, Yozora, was always constructed to be a mirror image of Sora, which is why Sora is the daytime sky, Noctis, Yozora is the nighttime sky. He was
Yep.
always constructed to be that mirror image of Sora, and he always had the idea that he was going to cross those two series over. And part of that, and this goes off Nomura now into Nojima, goes into Fabula Nova Crystallis, which is, for lack of a better term, all the Final Fantasy games are not connected, but Nojima created this central lore, Fabula Nova Crystallis, that would unite certain Final Fantasy games. And it was supposed to be FF13 versus 13, Type O, and then eventually this saga of Kingdom Hearts. That's why you see Azora put Sora in that crystal stasis. It's nodding towards the whole FF13 FNC era. And if you look around Quadratum, there's tons. Shout out to my man Xander. He's got this all like off the top of his head. There's tons of little billboards that allude to
Oh
Versus
yeah.
13, FF13. I think there's even Fabula Books, right? Fabula Nova Crystallis. There's
Yep.
a bookstore, Fabula Books in Quadratum. Like, and again, I see in the chat, yeah, I'd love to see Lightning in Kingdom Hearts. I'm just saying it's bigger than that. And that's where, again, like I kind of get frustrated what I'll call the FF supremacists who are like, where are my Final Fantasy characters? I'm like, man, Sora, Riku, Kairi, they are your Final Fantasy characters. They're just overlapped with Disney. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling here, but and
Oh
I
no, I
just,
love the passion.
yeah, yeah, I'm good. Well, good, because I can't help myself. But like, it's just so, one of the things I love about Kingdom Hearts is the more you look into it, the more you realize how much love, thought, and passion has gone into this game, to the point that they were constructing a whole Final Fantasy subverse to actually canonically cross over with it, right? Because we've had FF7, FF8, FF10, even VVFF9 made an appearance, but none of that is canonical with what happened to those characters. What Versus 13 and Fabula Nova Crystallis was supposed to do was to actually create a canonical appearance for these characters in Kingdom Hearts. Now, I don't know how much of that original plan has gone away. Obviously, with Yozora, it hasn't. But, I mean, even if you look at KH3, it's littered. Like, for instance, you haven't played FF15, right?
Nope.
Okay, so for those who may not know, Versus 13 became 15. Nomura got kicked off the project. One tragedy later, one mid-game later, here we are. But Noctis's party members, their sort of supplemental abilities mirror that of Sora and his crew in KH3s. Like, so for instance, you had the camera. There's a party member in 15 who takes pictures. You had the cooking mechanic. There's a party member in 15 who does the cooking. Like, it's all there in its DNA. So that's part of, in my opinion, what's so exciting about the future is to see Nomura finally in some way get this vision of his out of his head and into ours. And I don't know. I love this series so much. And again, part of it is that as I was like growing out of Disney and growing into Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts kind of in a way taught me like, hey man, you don't have to let go of that whimsical part of you. You could enjoy things that are like edgier and darker, but still go watch The Lion King once a year because you love it. It's like, man, there's just things like this that Kingdom Hearts has an impact that other games and series just don't.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts is, how do I put it? Kingdom Hearts is one of the best crossover pieces of media ever. Like, it's like a true crossover. What I mean is, it's not like a cameo within itself, like Marvel. Like it's all still under Marvel. It's not like Fortnite where you add skins into the game, and you have emotes and stuff that's really cool. And I love all of that. I love all that stuff, by the way. But Kingdom Hearts is a piece of crossover media that takes two basically polar opposite properties in Disney films, like made for like, well, not just made for, but definitely cater to like kids, like babies. Like you could take your newborn to a Disney movie, and they'll probably be a Disney adult or something when they grow up. To compare to Final Fantasy, like, and we know like Final Fantasy's like more mature themes and storytelling. Two completely separate properties, and then they're combined into a new universe. They're not like constantly clashing with each other, at least in my opinion. They're brought under one universe that create an original property that we know as Kingdom Hearts. Like I don't know, it's a true piece of crossover media. Like where the story elements from Disney, story elements from Final Fantasy collide into a unique story we call KH. I don't know, it's still rare even today. Like, collaborations are very common. We get like little expansions and gotcha games and things like that, but Kingdom Hearts still, like 25 years later, is very unique among those things because it's consistent, and they made an entire story universe separate piece of media combining multiple. It's just kind of crazy. And even more on top of that, they're about their next big step, their next big expansion, even though it is under the Disney banner. But things like Star Wars existed for years, decades, without being a part of Disney. Things like Marvel, like, these are all character stories that come from other properties, other media that are about to potentially come into Kingdom Hearts as well. So it's only getting bigger, but I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and when you consider that, like, Kingdom Hearts is almost like it's gaming's prized shonen in a way, because it's structured like
Yeah.
a shonen. And when you think about it, with the exception of maybe some nuance, Kingdom Hearts is the longest running narrative in video game history. When you really
It
think
it
about it,
definitely might be. It might be one of them for
Metal
sure.
Gear Solid might be the only thing that can rival it. I mean, maybe if you went by cutscene and gameplay content, then you can rope in like Final Fantasy 14 and World of Warcraft. But as far as like a single player RPG goes, it's the longest running narrative in video games. And I think part of what makes this wait so difficult for a lot of us is we're more excited about the story than ever. You know, it's
Yeah.
crazy to think about. You know, that's an achievement that Square should be proud of, is that you've kept this series going for the better part of 20 years, and the fact that people are mad that there's no new trailer just shows that like you've got us all hook, line, and sinker. You know, you've
Yeah.
done a good job.
And with that consistency and what you said, um, in terms of the weight, what makes it kind of difficult is like, which is why I'm very sympathetic to people who are annoyed at the wait, is because I compare waiting for Kingdom Hearts games like waiting for chapters in a book. It's like we're waiting for the next chapter
Hmm.
to be told for our franchise
It's like a
because these
shonen.
games are short. Yeah, these games are short. We're waiting for our next arc to begin. It's like we went from a franchise that was releasing games yearly, bi-yearly, to now I guess waits like this are going to be normalized potentially, which is eh, it is what it is. You know, like
Can
I
I give you some copium?
what's the copium?
The part of the restructuring is so development times in effect do get shorter. So maybe
Yeah, I
that
hope so.
won't apply to KH and it'll only apply to FF and Dragon Quest, but maybe that'll apply to Kingdom Hearts 2 when they finally allow themselves to reuse assets again. Because that is why we used to get all those games, is because they were just reusing those PS2 assets. Oh, I mean, it's why
Oh
we
yeah,
got Melody of Memory, if we're being honest with ourselves. So I think if in Unreal Engine 5 they successfully build everything out that all these assets can be reused perpetually, because I'm just gonna say it right now, and I hope by some miracle someone at Square Enix could hear this. We don't care about graphical fidelity. The way KH4 looks, all of us will be happy if every Kingdom Hearts game looks like that fidelity wise for the rest of our lives. When the PlayStation 8 comes out, we do not care if you update to Unreal Engine 9. Like, just the way the games look now
yes,
is so remarkable and more beautiful than any of us could have ever hoped for back in the PS2 era. So I hope that what they build now are assets they'll continue to reuse perpetually until the story is done. Because I think I speak for a lot of Kingdom Hearts fans where it's like, look, we don't need the graphics to get better. What we need is the development times to get shorter.
yeah, I agree. I completely and utterly agree with you.
So what do you think that's where they're headed? Do you think that's what they may end up doing? Because it's done wonders for FF7. Can you imagine how long this trilogy would have taken if they remade all the assets simply because the PS5 came out?
It uh, they'd be in the same situation we're in right now.
Yeah.
We're not as happy to be in this situation. I want to
No.
ask you something definitively. You've probably talked about this on this podcast like multiple times before, but do you feel like do you think this drought is no, I'm gonna just ask you straight. Do you think this drought's a good thing or a bad thing?
That honestly, I gotta be honest. It all depends how good Kingdom Hearts 4 is, right?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, that's what it comes out to. The way I like to say it is,
Truth.
food tastes better out of the crock pot than it does the microwave. So if they're crock
Oh yeah.
potting KH4, where it's like, all right, it's going to be a 12-hour cook, then sure, I think it can be worth it. I'll try to maybe apply it to the present day. Present day, it has not been a good thing. Through and through, it has not been a good thing. People have lost interest in the series. People are clearly not as excited as they used to be. Content creators like ourselves aren't making content as frequently, and a lot of the content is less, narrative focused, story focused, character focused. A lot of it now is speculation. Will it appear at this thing? Will, in this year, what can we expect? So when I look at like around the whole community, there's a little bit more infighting going on now than there used to be. Everyone's starting to feel the drought. So I'm not going to go so far as to say the drought is a good thing, because in the present day, it most certainly is not. But if at the end of the day, the price paid is that we get the best Kingdom Hearts game ever made, no one will even care.
Yeah, that's all I care about. I
Yeah.
think I feel like a lot of KH3's criticism. This might be my copium because I personally love the game, but I feel like if KH3 was a game that came out maybe a couple of years after it was announced, rather than coming out like 5.5, 6 years after it came out, I think there would have been a lot less backlash. There would have been a lot
Yeah.
less divisiveness, and there would have been a lot less just criticism about what overall feels like tiny things. I'm sure you've been in debates, you've been in the arguments, you've talked to people, you've seen the tweets people make. People are like grasping at straws sometimes for some of their criticisms for three, calling it the worst game ever. They hate the game when at worst, let's say you are someone who hate KH3, at worst, the game is like all right. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I mean, functionally,
Because
when you think about it, the game ran beautiful compared to the way games are released today. Let's just be honest about that. Whatever people
yeah,
think about the narrative, put that aside for a moment. Compared to the way games are released today, where half this shit is a buggy mess that needs a first week of patches to fix it. KH3 ran beautifully on day one. You know what I'm saying? It didn't require, now don't get me wrong, there were patches that helped make the gameplay better and things like that, but the patches weren't because the game wasn't running well. It's a game that ran beautifully, played great on day one. So again, it's so
yeah,
weird because it feels like the game came out in a different time because the industry's changed so much since
it
the game came
has.
out. So it's like,
I mean, post-COVID industry. Yeah.
yeah, post Kingdom of Corona, yeah. Post that, things certainly have changed. And again, look, a lot of things definitely changed internally at Square Enix. If you went over their financial numbers, they had no choice. If you like Kingdom Hearts and you want more Kingdom Hearts games, we kind of had no choice but for Square to restructure the way they've restructured. Now, again, I'm never happy when somebody gets laid off. I don't want anyone to lose their job. I don't want things like that to happen. But if you went over those
Yeah.
numbers, it was pretty dire for years. And one thing that confuses me, and I'm sure you've seen this, because we covered their numbers for years on this show, is like when they were like in the red and bleeding money and it looked like they were going to get bought out by Sony or like when it looked like the end was nigh and we were screaming to high heaven that these big AAA games are not making any money, nobody was really talking about it. But strangely, when they went on this string of like AA games coming out, and they finally were a little bit profitable on console games, that's when everyone started yelling, the sky is falling. And I felt like I was in a different world because I'm looking around, I'm like, they're profitable for the first time in years. What are we talking about? Like, this is good news. Like, I know they're AA games. Not all of you want to play pixel games. Okay, I'm an Octopath shill. Have you played Octopath Zero, by the way?
I have not yet. I am waiting.
Give me a
I'm
buzz
waiting.
when you get around to it. I'd love to know your thoughts. But
I definitely will. Have you played it? Do you like the game?
Dude, let me tell you how much I love that game. I put 120 hours into that game in the month of December, beat it, and I've not touched a video game. No, I don't want to say that. I've touched a few things here and there, but I've like, you know when you beat a game and nothing else is really satisfying you anymore?
Yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
what Octopath Zero has done to me.
That was really good to hear about Octopath Zero because I was kind of feeling that way after Octopath One, a similar feelings. That's really exciting to hear. I might have to pick it up this next week then. All
Yeah,
right.
and you know, I would love for them to take a AA approach with a subtitle Kingdom Hearts game. You know, I like not
Yeah.
everything needs to be the big AAA banger. You know,
It
and
kind of
Kingdom Hearts
sucks.
fans are examples of that. We went crazy over a Pixel Game Boy Advance game back in the day. You know?
Yeah. It kind of sucks because it's weird because at one point we were clamoring for Kingdom Hearts to get out of the double A era,
We didn't
and now
know
we're
what we
like,
had,
yo,
bro.
now we're like, let's go back because that was one of my exciting things after three as well because they had Unreal Engine as a foundation. Think about the gaming industry in 2019. We didn't have any big handhelds on the market aside from the Switch hybrid, right?
Mhm.
So like there wasn't an excuse like aside from the mobile games, of course, right? Square Enix, if we were to get another game, theoretically, hypothetically, different universe, we were to get another game like a Days or a Birth by Sleep type game, it probably would have been on console. It probably would, yeah, it would have been like a short 10-hour, 12, 15-hour game or something, maybe, right? But in KH3 graphics, a short game like that, double A release, that would have been peak. I would have loved that. I would have ate
Oh
that
yeah.
up, you know? Or
Oh yeah.
something looking on par with like Missing Link cutscenes, right? Missing Link is kind of lower poly KH version of KH3 cut look wise, from my perspective, right? I think it would have been so cool to get those. I thought after 3 we'd be back in an era where we were pumping out games. And like we got games in between KH3 during the wait, but it wasn't there's some revisionist history that goes on with the KH3 wait. The KH3 wait compared to this, great, beautiful. Like KH3 wait
Seriously.
was like amazing. But
Seriously.
but as a fan who grew up with the series and did play all those non-numbered titles, right? The remixes, while they were a big deal, especially for bringing things like Final Mix and stuff to the US, major deal. And I think that's had a bigger deal on Kingdom Hearts' overall reception, especially Kingdom Hearts 2's, than people think. Um, we were getting re-releases. Like they were re-releasing games for 5 years before until KH3 came out.
But
Which
you know,
I didn't have a problem with. It modernized it. It modernized. It made these games accessible. But that is what was happening. We were getting a lot of re-releases for games we already played, with the exception of things like 2.8 with back cover, 0.2, some Union Cross updates, which were really nice. But I was hoping so badly after 3 that we would get some new double A releases. And for a little bit, it looked like KH was starting off strong, because after 3, I thought we were going to get at least like a two year, maybe 3 year, like sort of way. I thought this drought would have happened earlier on,
mhm.
like right after 3, and then we get into like pumping out stuff. But instead, after 3, they released this whole timeline thing with the 2020 trailer that we still reference. Dark Road got announced and had
Union
like
Cross
some of the
finale.
best story ever. Union Cross finale, Melody of Memory, Remind. We got Remind stuff pretty quickly
We
after
were
KH
snowballing,
released.
bro. We
Like,
were snowballing.
yeah, they were like those first 2 years, and then right after that, right after it looked like we were getting a little bit of a low period. I remember this. Nomura at the end of 2020 said 2021 is going to be like, don't expect anything for Kingdom Hearts in 2021. Bro would proceed to drop Union Cross's finale, and then Sora would come to Smash, and the Kingdom Hearts games would come to PC for the first time ever. Like that was a silent year for KH back then, according to Nomura.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then
Wow.
leading into the 20th anniversary event, we got KH4 Missing Link announced, and the rest is history. Like we kind of thought we were on cloud 9 for a bit. Those first like 2.5, 3 years after KH3 came out were actually filled with content if you were like obsessed with Kingdom Hearts. And now it's like, oh man,
Well, that's why
mobile game canceled.
my big hope for 2026, big hope, big cope, you decide what it is a KH3 like Remind Final Mix type release. You don't have to do too much, because
I,
I think there were a
they need
lot of
that.
people, and this is what I think can really help the series, because I think there were a lot of people who they played KH3 the first time and they never picked it up again. They maybe watched Remind on YouTube and that was that.
Yep.
I think with all the patches they made, that 6-month patch after the game came out, and then the Remind patch that really updated the combat and leveled it up, I think if you dropped something, there was something in the equivalent of, it doesn't have to be quote unquote Final Mix, but something equivalent to it, like a KH 3.5, that
Yeah.
came with all those updates, came with the Melody of Memory cutscenes, came with Remind packaged in, Limit Cut packaged in, and then, maybe add 15, 20 minutes of new cutscenes. I think something like that would reignite everything. You don't even need a full new game. Just literally give us the Final Mix equivalent of KH3 on PS5. Because I know some people are saying Remind is Final Mix. I get that. But unless you have it on PC, you're stuck on the PS4 version of that game. And having played KH3 and Remind on PC, which my PC in effect is equivalent specs to a PS5, there's a gap in the gameplay. Like it
There
felt
is.
way better on PC than on my PS4. So for people who have like a PS5, I want them to experience that, especially now that RAM, forget about it. Your average person's not going to be able to afford to build a quality gaming PC right now. So taking that KH3 Remind Limit Cut updated experience and bringing it to the PS5, I really think, the added 15 minutes of cutscenes is just a wish of mine, but I think something like that would totally reignite the fan base. I really do. with
I
fragmentary
think it'll,
passage too. Like there's tons that you could put on there.
yeah, I think it would definitely help. It would give us some temporary relief from the drought for sure. I definitely want that to happen because I think Kingdom Hearts 3, uh there's a lot of there's a big separation in people's experiences with KH3 because like you said,
Hmm.
a lot of people played through for the first time, probably never played Remind because of the story, because we saw this big disconnect when Remind came out where I saw a lot of more casual KH fans weren't really feeling Remind like that, but hardcore fans were like obsessed with like they're like this is the best
I think it's the
Kingdom
peak
Hearts
of the
thing since
series.
KH2. Yeah, I do too. I think it's great. I think it's the best thing the series has ever done. Um, but I think what they need to do, they need to integrate Remind more into the base game. Because while I am fine with the way they did Remind, I love it because we got more content in Remind than we probably would have in any other final mix, right? But they should have integrated like those abilities into the base game. That was the weirdest thing to me because the base game still mostly plays the same aside from like some of the patches they did, like adding cancel windows to the finishers and whatnot. It just, I don't know, it's just very weird they did that. So if they could release a 3.5 or just some sort of KH3 final mix thing and integrate the those abilities into the base gameplay, integrate some of those, maybe even integrate Oathkeeper Oblivion somehow into there
Yeah.
instead of having it be exclusively post game. But it would do a lot for a lot of people. Have Remind bundled with the game is an important thing because I know it's like that on PC.
Hmm.
On console, a lot of people still have to buy Remind separately.
Yeah.
Even the other day, uh, there's just a funny interaction with a viewer of mine. I forget on what platform, where someone was just like, "Yo, how do you have this? I don't have the DLC. What is this? What are you doing?" And
Oh my god.
I'm like, well, you have to. Well, they didn't said I don't have the DLC. They said how do you get this stuff? I don't have it on my KH3, and I was like, it's DLC. And I was like, oh, what is this funny? But
Well, it's funny you bring up that disconnect because I think something that they can do better with their game design is, if you there are certain abilities that I think need to be pushed on the player more. So my favorite mechanic from 3 is air step. And again, maybe that's
oh
because
yeah,
I'm a big Dragon Ball Z fan, so it made me feel like I was in DBZ, literally warping around the battlefield, kick that guy's ass, warp over there, kick that guy's ass, go 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 go. Like I loved air step. And again, it wasn't just a combat mechanic, it was a world exploration mechanic too. So for that reason, I
yeah,
absolutely loved it. But I think a lot of people, because you don't I would watch a lot of people stream KH3 and they would use air step to navigate the map, but they would never use it in battle. So they're like running on foot. This is why I think the mob fights get a lot of criticisms, because they're like running on foot to the other side of like the little battle arena when it's like, you don't need to do that. You can literally warp over there. And I remember watching a streamer play, I'm not going to name names, but I watched a streamer play Limit Cut when it first dropped. I remember being at work and I couldn't play it the first day it came out, so I wanted to watch someone else do those fights. And they didn't know how to do air step. And I'm like, Square's got to do something where if you get to like the full on end game content like Limit Cut, you shouldn't have to be reminded of those mechanics. I feel like they have to be beaten into the player a little bit more, because there were so many gameplay mechanics that KH3 added to Sora that people just didn't use, which I thought was very strange.
yeah. I think it's because a lot of people. I think it's a couple of things. Kingdom Hearts has always had a problem of not really explaining its mechanics to the players because you see how hardcore of a speedrun community Kingdom Hearts used to have before Rando kind of took over. Kingdom Hearts 2 was probably one of the bigger speedruns or one of the most speedrun games outside of some Nintendo titles. Kingdom Hearts does not do a good job of explaining its mechanics at all to the player. That is a
Mm-hmm.
long running thing in the Kingdom Hearts franchise. But I think with KH3, you had a lot of people who are used to playing Kingdom Hearts a certain way, where a lot of abilities would kind of just be shoved in your face a little bit. Like it's not that hard to figure out how to use explosion or equip explosion in KH2 or
Mm-hmm.
use some of those abilities. A lot of people don't use summons, but drive forms are pretty incentivized. It's like, okay, you do more damage. But things like using Buzzsaw with air step on like level 1 crit or like
Mm-hmm.
on critical mode in general to like build your form gauge faster, basically instantly a lot of the time. Um, a lot of people don't know about. People don't know about a lot of those like experimental things in the combat or some of those extra abilities you get from Keyblade upgrades. A lot of people didn't. They, I know a lot of people did like KH3's combat. The biggest criticisms 3 usually gets is 90% of the time about its story. The combat, some people complain about it, but like most people like it from my understanding. But I still think with 3 combat that people just didn't explore a lot of its mechanics. They probably approached the game at a very like from a very surface level point of view. They walk forward, mash X, and that definitely works because when 3 launched, especially, which is when most people first played it, it was very easy. It did not
Yep.
launch with a crit. It did not launch with a proud. Honestly, a lot of players aren't even going to go towards those options natively because if you if you are someone who isn't like keen on challenging yourself like that, you see proud mode, you see critical mode, you're like, I don't know if I want to do that for my first playthrough. There's so many fans who prefer to go standard on their first playthrough because they want a casual story experience with not too much difficulty. They don't want to die in 2 hits. But with KH3, I gotta admit that was definitely a big criticism for the game. Game was way too easy at launch. Way too easy. Like you Sora didn't die. Like you had to try to die in that game when it first came out, in my opinion.
I think the only time I died in my first playthrough of KH3 on standard was during the Xehanort fight. Like it took all the way there for me to die the first time. And I was very happy to see there
Yeah.
wasn't a trophy for not dying, so I got over that pretty quick. But
I think it
honestly,
was Water's Xehanort for me.
yeah, it was. Yeah, gee, that was the worst part of that fight. But
Yeah.
KH3 didn't solidify as my favorite until I played it on critical. It was only then when the game, like I was kind of getting at before, sort of forced me to use every mechanic at my disposal. Only then did I go, whoa, there's a lot more here than what I experienced my first time around. So
Yeah.
that's tough too, because again, the like you're kind of saying, the appeal of standard, and honestly, between you and I, when KH4 gets here, my first playthrough will be on standard. For that reason that like, I want to experience the story, and I know I'm gonna play the game multiple times. I've played every Kingdom Hearts game probably at least 5 times. So it's not like I'm not gonna go back and do proud and critical. But they do got to make standard a little bit more of a challenge, and it doesn't even need to be a challenge. But design the game in a way that forces the player to utilize all their mechanics, even if they're not having a difficult time with the fights.
Yeah. I think the only Kingdom Hearts game that even has a hard proud mode is KH1 actually.
I would agree, honestly.
or
Critical's the only
or
thing that's challenging in 2 and 3.
or expert mode from back in the day. I think critical mode is kind of like the base way to play KH to me most of the time. Like
100%.
I love crit. If I really Oh my god, this is one of my biggest hopes for KH4. I really hope they have critical at launch, but I feel like they're not going to do it. But I really hope it does, man, because I don't know. That would just be great if I had critical mode at launch.
Yeah, and I'm
That would
I'm
be
hoping they do
beautiful.
that. And honestly, I have faith that, because that was something that was part of that 6-month patch, wasn't it? They put in critical mode.
They added critical mode in KH3's first like big update in like April, I think, of 20 of that same year it came out. So it wasn't part of the Remind pack, but it was part of it. It was like one of the first updates after the game released. The Remind patch was kind of insane because they had a free update right before Remind that add Oathkeeper and Oblivion, and also added those cancel windows to like your combos along with some of those combo modifiers, I believe, as well. And then you had then the Remind DLC. I mean, it just came with the Remind DLC, but I'm pretty sure the base game came with all those new abilities and all those and the Keyblades if you just like finished it like as part of the free update, which was sick.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, we have crossed the 2-hour mark. I guess what I would ask is, was there anything that you wanted to discuss today that we haven't discussed? Anything on your mind? No rush here, so if you have something, don't be afraid. But now that we've crossed that 2-hour mark, I did want to ask, was there anything that you were hoping or wanted to discuss today that we haven't touched on yet? Or maybe something from earlier you didn't get to expand on enough?
Let me think. I I guess I would ask to have like a little end topic on KH4. What what were your, well, we talked about release. When do you think we'll actually see KH4 again? Do you believe in 2026 for us seeing it this year, or do you think we have a much longer wait ahead of us as well?
So I actually, you know what, chat, come up with a punishment for me if I end up being wrong come December 31st. I promise to honor it. Um, I actually think we will see some of Kingdom Hearts 4 this year. I don't know if that means a trailer. It might mean just another series of screenshots, but I think Square is very much aware of how impatient everyone's getting. I think Square is very
Yeah.
much aware that the series is losing interest, it's losing momentum. I think Square is very much aware that the last time they showed us something was damage control. And you don't want that to be the last time you've engaged with your audience is damage control. So I do believe that sometime in 2026, we will see Kingdom Hearts 4 again. I don't know if it's a trailer. It could be key art. It could be screenshots. It could be something like that. But I do believe we will see something in 2026. What do you think?
Okay. Um, I think we're lucky if we get a single trailer. I see Lance saying D23 in the chat. I think D23 is a
That's a
possibility.
good guess.
I don't really. I don't know. My hopes my hopes a little shot, but I I'm hopeful for like that one shot in the dark trailer, and then they probably ghost us for another year after that, or like they tell us, hey, we're not gonna show anything until next summer or something like that. I think we'll be lucky. Definitely not for the first half of this year though.
Yeah, definitely
I,
not.
I think I think second half of this year would be when we see Kingdom Hearts again for sure.
And that's why I
And
think D23 is a good guess because that's like early second half of 2026. Because when you start getting to like that late 2026, that's FF7's time to shine. So I don't think we see anything around there. So I think maybe in the fall might be a good window to see something.
yeah,
But the bottom line is, I don't think we see it until we have a release window. Like, I don't think,
yeah,
because the last thing they said was magic in the making, now in development. I don't think they're going to show us something until they can give us a window that can say, coming in 2028, coming Q4 2027. I think they also wouldn't be wise to show us a trailer that didn't have a release window because I look, we know
I
how this
completely
fan
agree.
base is. They'll be hyped for 2 straight minutes as we're seeing a trailer, but the second it just says now in development at the end, they're going to throw their hands up and go, "Well, why even show this to us? Why just
I
tease us
completely
without
agree with you.
a window, you know?"
Yeah, I talked about this on Twitter before, and I think while it is bad, like this drought present day, not good. They can fix the damage they've done during the drought if they come back with something really good, or if the game is just that undeniably good. But I personally think in the state it's in, Kingdom Hearts is always going to be a divisive series from here on out. Not only because it's attached to Disney, which is constantly in controversy nowadays, whether it be with Star Wars, whether it be with Marvel, or whether it be with their own properties as well. Square Enix also is not like fully safe. Square Enix is also caught up in controversy because we saw the recent reports, them talking about AI, constant layoffs. A lot of my friends got laid off during that layoff as well. There's just a lot of stuff going on, right? So both companies are not, I don't know, they're not necessarily in the public's good graces, like 100% at least. Most people, I think a lot of Square Enix fans, despite seeing that stuff, I don't think anyone's like, I'm never buying a Square game again. It was more like disappointment, like, I
It
don't like
is. It
seeing
was,
them
and
right
I think
now.
anyone
Go
who
through
saw
that.
their financials understands that, like, if you want
Yeah,
KH4, they kind of had to do what they had to do.
but
Not saying it's
yeah,
good, just observing that it's true. I always have to make that
but I think,
distinction.
that what would definitely kill momentum even worse right now. We're already 4 years in. If I have to be another year in, whatever. I don't think any of us will be really that surprised at this point. We'll complain about it. We'll yap about it. We'll make our debates, right? Because that what else do we have to do?
Hmm.
But we'll obviously, a lot of people will obviously show frustration towards that. But if we have to wait another year, it is what it is. At the end of the day, like, life moves on. Life doesn't stop for anyone. I know for me, 4 years ago, completely different situation in life, and nowadays, like, I don't know, like, we're moving through life pretty fast now. Um, think about more adult things, but I think if they drop a trailer and it does not have a release window or a date or even an announcement for another announcement, similar to what they did with the orchestra trailers in 2017
Hmm.
for KH3, where they said after the orchestra trailer, we will show more Kingdom Hearts 3 and a new world at D23. If they don't do something like that, even if they have an announcement and it says now in development, we are cooked. We are
Yep.
full doom mode. Even if we get a trailer, like the community is justified too. Because if you wait 4 years for a game and then you still see now in development, I don't know. I think any fan base under the sun would be annoyed at that. But I know I don't want to make your podcast too long. We don't get the opportunity to do these super often.
It won't
So I
be.
wanted to
There won't
ask
be a
you.
3-year gap between the next one. Don't worry.
That definitely won't. But I'm surprised we didn't talk about this that much. We talked about the Key Saga, Missing Link. Did you so how did you feel about Missing Link's cancellation?
Okay, here we go again, right? Observing something is true is not the same as saying I support it or that it's good, but here's what I'll say. I genuinely, as someone who has not been a big fan of the mobile games, right? I can be forward about that.
Yeah.
But I was genuinely looking forward to Kingdom Hearts Missing Link just because it seemed to be a step above, the sort of chibi aspect that Union Cross had, that all the
Yeah.
cutscenes were going to look like back cover. Things like that got me excited for Missing Link. But the thing that primarily had me excited is the thing that I think the Kingdom Hearts series is missing the most. And that's a series about making connections and friendships, but games that no one can play together. And Kingdom Hearts
Yeah.
Missing Link was going to solve for that. In that, me and chat talked about it all the time. We were all going to be doing raids together and doing all that. I was
Dude, I
really
was so
looking forward.
excited for that.
Yeah, I was really, really looking forward to that. So when I heard about Missing Link's cancellation, it did break my heart, not just because I was looking forward to a new Kingdom Hearts game, and I was looking forward to a game where I could literally play with my audience as opposed to them just being spectators. That really, and I would say my friends, but none of my IRL friends really like Kingdom Hearts like that. They play it more casually. All my
Yeah.
sickos are here in the chat with me, but that's what I really was primarily looking forward to. That said, I am very pleased that the mobile era of Kingdom Hearts is seemingly over because, frankly,
Cross your fingers, knock on wood.
cross your fingers, knock on wood. I got them both right here. But again, as someone who it's so weird, right? Because I loved the Union Cross drip content, drip story content. I loved
Yeah, it was
Dark Road.
nice.
Yeah, I loved all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I am pleased that that era is over because it just disjointed the narrative too much. And yeah, people like us are going to eat it up, but like your
Hmm.
casual fan's not going to have any clue what the hell is going on, which is another reason why I think there was some disconnect with KH3 because if you didn't play Union Cross or had any frame of reference for it, what the hell was that ending with the foretellers? What the
There's
hell is a
so many
Mushu?
cutscenes.
Like
There's
where did this
the Keyblade
black box
Legacy
come from?
cutscene.
That black box wasn't in Kingdom Hearts 2. What's it doing here? It creates a little bit of a disjointed narrative for anyone that isn't a sicko. I separate people into sickos and normies. Sickos like us, we're going to know all about it, but normies are not. And the normies are important too. So
Yeah.
I'm okay with this mobile era ending. However, I'll make one caveat. I hope that we get at least one non-numbered title again before it's all said and done.
Yeah, that's not on mobile, preferably. So I don't have
Correct.
any hatred towards the mobile games, in terms of like the games themselves, or really the story, especially. I love the story for Union Cross. I
Oh,
actually
me
beat
too.
Union Cross myself. I had 2 accounts for Union Cross, like probably a lot of other creators did. Um, I was there every time when an update dropped. Like I have an extensive history with Union Cross, Dark Road, like me, Damo, Secret Reports, like some of the only creators who were really covering the mobile stories at the time. Because I said earlier that Verum Rex brought mystery back to Kingdom Hearts.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say that for the mainstream. Union Cross had it for years. Union Cross was like all mystery. Like the whole game was about who murdered Shirley. We had a freaking murder mystery
Oh, it
game.
was a
Like
giant
that
game of
the whole
Among
story
Us.
about. It was crazy. Yeah, it was a giant game of Among Us. It was amazing. And then Dark Road, surprised me so much. I didn't really have
Yeah.
major expectations. I actually thought the first 3 story updates for Dark Road, well, they were solid. I didn't think they were like that crazy, and then they went on that year and a half hiatus, and it came back, and I freaking loved it. I thought it was so good. Like some of the best story, again, like I said with Union Cross finale, some of the best story we probably have gotten in Kingdom Hearts. I said during Union Cross finale, this could be one of my favorite KH games if it wasn't a mobile title. And it sucks because I know some people they are fine with mobile games. For them, there's no big disconnect between a mobile game and a console game or whatever. But I think Square Enix, they're very often late to trends, and one of the trends they are very late to, I think if you are doing a free to play game and you are not going the Hoyoverse route, you are absolutely throwing. What I mean by that is Hoyoverse, when they release a gotcha game, it is on console, it's on PC, it's on your mobile devices. Shoot, you could play it on anything. Like they have it accessible like absolutely everywhere. And it's crossplay, even though they're mostly single player games half the time. Like Square Enix was making a game that, to our knowledge, up to its cancellation, we were hoping, we were theorizing about it being on console. They never said it. They announced it only for mobile. Even for betas, it was some of the betas were exclusive to certain devices like iPhone, Android. And I get they want to test things out with the GPS feature. That's beautiful, but like it creates such a big disconnect a lot of the time. And like there's so many red flags with Missing Link, but because we had never experienced a Kingdom Hearts game's cancellation, no one predicted that would happen really. I mean, well, I won't say no one. There's a lot of people who were doom predicting it, but like I didn't think it was going to actually happen or anything. But I definitely saw the red flags. The red flags being I had like a mobile game going through this long of a marketing cycle or dev cycle was a red flag, because mobile games, free to play games, a game that's free anyways, those games are the games you just drop. Those aren't the
Hmm.
games that have these super long development windows. I mean, at least it's not super crazy common. I mean, some Hoyoverse games do that. I know Arc Knights took a long time to come out. That's a recent one that came out a couple of days ago. That one has gone through an extensive marketing phase or beta phase and stuff like that. But Missing Link, I know they were going a little above and beyond, but it was just surprising to see that game taking so long to come out. So that was a big red flag. They missed their beta when they missed their first beta window by a little bit. They also missed their 2024 window. Um and it was they were still doing betas when we were thinking the game was going to eventually release soon. They were still doing betas exclusive to like other regions, you know? They hadn't done a worldwide beta yet. They hadn't done a US beta yet. They hadn't they barely did I don't even think they didn't even do a beta for both iPhone and Android at the same time, or were they still doing exclusive ones? I don't even remember.
They were
Someone could
still
fact check me on
exclusive.
that one. Yeah, like there was just so many red flags with the game, but despite all of that, I love the world. I love the
Hmm.
story, and I love those cutscenes. It was so fresh for Kingdom Hearts, and I was interested in this world of Scala. And the most controversial feature, and you can go on my channel, you can look at this. The video I made on May 11th, right before Missing Link would get canceled on May 14th, was I made a video. What the heck? I'm sorry, my Google just turned on randomly.
You good?
But my a video I made right before my last video before Missing Link got canceled was a video glazing the GPS feature, because I had recently, because I didn't think it was going to get canceled. I straight up thought, okay, they delayed it for 2024. It has to come out in 2025, and I was banking on it coming out in summer. I made a video talking about the GPS feature. I'm like, this is a major part of the game. Everyone kind of talks around the topic of it. No one really understands what it does. I did some deep diving into it. A lot of help from Damo's video, and I kind of started liking the GPS feature. I thought it sounded really cool. Something like I wasn't into Pokemon Go that much. I didn't get on the Pokemon Go wave at all. I had friends who were, but I never got onto it myself. I was like, okay, this might be fun for Kingdom Hearts. This might be really cool. There's a lot of cool benefits, like the AP fee. Like, if you were in GPS mode, you basically could circumvent the whole AP thing in the game if you were in GPS mode. So that was like an incentive for walking outside and actually doing things in the real world compared to sitting at your desk. If you were sitting at your desk, you had to spend AP on everything. If you were walking about, you didn't have to consume as much AP, or you could just kind of free roam, do your own thing. But you were restricted, obviously, with what you could do in that instance. You did need to use AP though to teleport to different locations, from my understanding. But still, regardless, right? There was just so many things with Missing Link I was happy about, and I say all that not to yap your ears off. I'm sorry,
No,
but
dude, it's a podcast. You're supposed to yap my ears off. You're doing just fine.
you're right. I'm sorry, but I think that despite all of that, all the positives, all the negatives for Missing Link, we did desperately need to get out of this mobile game era,
Yeah.
because we have not, and Kingdom Hearts 3 is big proof of this. Big proof of this. We have not had a Kingdom Hearts game where everyone has been on the same page in a very long time. What I mean by that is no one was like, not everyone was caught up for KH3 yet. Not there are so many side games and other titles going on. Landy even mentioned when we did have all the remixes that did catch you up on the non titles, the Chain of Memories, the Days, the Recodeds. You had the Key Saga going on. You had the Black Box as a major plot point in KH3, and it's like, I don't know. You can get the gist of that watching back cover, but then you also have these Keyblade Legacy cutscenes, like Marluxia, Larxine's death scenes might not hit as much for you. You might not know what they're talking about fully if you didn't play the mobile games that they were in. It's like little stuff like that. Chirruthy just showing up in Ventus's ending out of nowhere, it's like that's kind of a weird thing. That's random. Like that cutscene's still awkward, even to me. And I know about the mobile games, but like it's even more awkward to someone who probably doesn't play them, doesn't know about them as much. Uh we need a Kingdom Hearts game desperately, or everyone, and it's not going to happen, but if we can get as close as possible, we desperately need a Kingdom Hearts game where everyone is on the same page. Everyone can just like be as into the story as everyone else. And also for me personally, Unicross, Dark Road, their stories are so good, they deserve better. That's my take.
That's ultimately, I'm glad you articulated that, because that's what I forgot to say earlier, is that the stories that came out of Union Cross and Dark Road are better than the games that played alongside them. And a lot of that is simply just due to the limiting factor of a mobile phone. So I'm happy that stories like that, and you know what? The other thing too is, like, I'm a big collect physical media guy. Like, I'm not even
Yeah.
just like that with video games. I'm like that with like manga and comics and novels and movies and now like sports memorabilia, history stuff. Like, I like doing that kind of stuff. But what really breaks my heart is that, like, Union Cross isn't on my shelf. Dark Road isn't on my shelf. It's just poof. It's just gone. I can't
Uh,
pull Union Cross off the shelf and have that experience again. I can't pull Dark Road off the shelf and have that experience again. And that's something that, again, putting it on top of like what you articulated, that the game's stories were better than the games that went alongside them. That's just something I'm not going to miss. I'm not going to miss that. I'm going to be quite pleased that, knock on wood here, fingers crossed, that every Kingdom Hearts game here on out, I can put a physical copy on my shelf. And if in 20 years I want to re experience it, I can do that.
yeah.
Because 20 years
As a
might sound
Union
like a long time, but if you've pulled KH1 or KH2 off the shelf to do that, understand that's pretty much the equivalent. Now imagine
Yeah.
KH1 and KH2 existed in a way that you couldn't access them like that anymore. Like, that would just be
Be
heartbreaking.
terrible.
That would be
It
terrible.
would
So
be.
I wouldn't want to see that. And to shamelessly admit something, because you were talking, just to respond to what you were saying about the GPS function. So I like to jog a few times a week to keep in shape. When
Yeah.
in the wait for Missing Link, I was upping my mileage every week because I was like, I gotta farm this AP. I gotta farm this AP. I gotta do it. And I shamelessly, I will admit that. So yeah, I still run, but not as many miles as I did when I was waiting for Missing Link. I will shamelessly admit that.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Missing Link had a real impact.
had me just upping my
I
cardio,
love that.
bro. I was like, I need that AP, bro. I need that AP. I'm gonna run a 5K
Eh,
a day.
You know,
And then it was just
one
like,
final
nope.
thing I'll add. Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. Go for it.
Okay, I was about to say one final thing I was going to add. As you were talking about like Union Cross and Dark Road stories. Um, because of like the medium they are in and like the art style they're in, which I don't mind the art style that much, but like, I it would be nice if it looked similar to other Kingdom Hearts games. It was so validating as a Union Cross like mega fan, mega nerd to see Strelitzia in that KH4 trailer. Like it
Dude,
was very validating
I couldn't agree
because it
more.
was like this character is going to be a big part of the story, and I'm excited for it. And that's why I said one of the other things is anything to do with the Key Saga earlier, is because the Key Saga told a story for Kingdom Hearts that was so mysterious and so like lore filled. Like it was so complex, but in a way that I feel like everyone could get, you know? And I don't know. I want to. If Kingdom Hearts 4 is more of the writing we got in Remind and the Key Saga, this might be the best story in Kingdom Hearts. Like straight up. That's kind of my opinion. That's like why I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, me too. And I think ultimately that's one of the things to look forward to most is that the series has set itself up in a way that all these threads can start connecting. All these questions can be answered. New questions can be introduced. And you saw it, like you were saying, with that post KH3, not just with Remind and Limit Cut, but even with Union Cross and even with Dark Road. So, you know, you take things for what they are, even though like we enjoyed those experiences. I'm happy that that mobile era is behind us for the sake of the series. Just I think what I hope the Kingdom Hearts series does is they just remain patient. We're already in the drought. You know what I mean? There's no undoing the long wait. There's no undoing the long drought. Don't hastily start making announcements and trailers without a concrete plan in place. I guess is what I would say to cap that off. But pushing the 2.5 hour mark here, I'm going to rehash the question. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss or bring up or clarify before we wrap it up here today?
That's a dangerous question to ask me, but no, I do not.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair
that,
enough.
that
All
that
right.
that wraps up everything. I just felt like we needed to talk about Missing Link a little bit
No,
before
I'm
we
glad.
ended.
No, I'm glad you brought it up because it puts a nice cap on all of this when talking about the current state of Kingdom Hearts, the state of the unions, you might say. But dude, thank you so much for coming on and having this conversation, guys. I mean, you know, I'd be surprised if there's someone in my chat who doesn't know who Prodigy is, but on the off chance you don't, I've got his links in the description. You definitely want to follow him on YouTube. You definitely want to follow him over on Twitter. Prodigy, you're a great, great conversation to have. You're a great Kingdom Hearts creator. I think you're a great influence on the community. I love the fact that you're always keeping us talking. Like at the end of the day, one of the things that gets me through this drought is seeing you posing those questions on Twitter and watching the fan base rip each other apart. Honestly, I love to see it. I love having you on here. Let's not wait another 3 years before we do this again, because honestly, it was a pleasure.
Let's definitely not. This was a lot of fun, honestly. And to your comment about my Twitter, I try. That's not my goal to see people rip each other apart, but it is my goal to make conversation for sure.
It's
So
not, it may
I
not be your goal, but it's also not your responsibility. You're just asking a question. You say something, dude, you'll
that is
say something
true.
like, say one nice thing about Birth by Sleep. And then that's it. It's like the Coliseum opens. It's nothing you
That's all you
did.
gotta do.
It's just the nature of the fan base.
Yeah. That's all you got to do sometimes. But I really had a lot of fun being on this podcast. This was genuinely a lot of fun. I love any opportunity, honestly, to yap about KH. There are not many people who you will find, I think, that can just yap about Kingdom Hearts 4 years into a drought where we've gotten literally nothing but a cancellation and some screenshots. Oh wait, we got some Steam ports, I guess, too, but I've had the game on Epic for years at this point. I don't know. There are not many people you will find who can just unapologetically yap about this franchise this much, and it's purely because I love it. I'm obsessed.
I mean, what do you mean? We've gotten all this merch. You can't. We could just yap about the merch.
Oh,
But point being, yes, you. I truly believe you're one of the best out there. Anyone like you're saying who could still. I mean, we just yapped for 2.5 straight hours in this 4 year drought. Obviously, it comes from a place of passion. But with all that said, before you and I get wrapped up in another 30-minute segment, we're gonna wrap it up here. Y'all in the chat have been absolutely great. Prodigy, thank you for coming on. We'll have to do it again sometime soon. But ladies and gentlemen, as I always say before we wrap up, you all be good out there. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other. And I will see all